Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Abandoned by His Parents and Became Ghost Rider movie. Before we start, please go support Alessandro Gonzalez 54 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. I admired my brothers, I loved my parents. But one day everything changed. My brothers became arrogant. My parents hit me senselessly, and all because of not having a sacred gears. But I don't know what to do anymore. I can help you, boy. Prologue. We see a chestnut tree that was sitting on a bench, who was wearing a black jacket with spikes on his shoulders. At that moment you start to hear footsteps that the brown-haired man simply ignores until a man sits next to the brown-haired man. Wow, what a beautiful view, said the man, but the brown-haired boy didn't answer. And how were you, little? Was the man's question, but the brown-haired boy didn't answer. What do you want, Azazel? Was what the brown-haired man said coldly while he still didn't look at him. Azazel, oh, why are you so cold, boy? After all, he couldn't continue speaking because chains surrounded Azazel's neck. You say that word and I'll kill you, so get to the point, said the brown-haired man coldly while the chains and weight tightened around Azazel's neck. Azazel, okay, calm down, kid, he said nervously. At that, the chains came out of Azazel's neck. Sigh, I want to ask you a favor, he said seriously. What kind of favor, said the brown-haired man coldly. Azazel, I want you to stop Kokobile, he said seriously. Why don't you do it? He said dryly. Azazel sigh, the reason I can't interfere is simple, he said seriously. It's because Kokobile is in demon territory. And well, you already know what will happen, right? He said while looking at the brown-haired boy. Sigh, tell me where Kokobile will attack, said the brown-haired boy, already irritated. Azazel, he will attack in Kuoh, he said somewhat nervously while the brown-haired man asked for a roar. I need you to protect the heiress Citri and Gremory, he said still nervous. Really, he said seriously, but if they have the security and the Krom Krug bearer, he said coldly. Azazel, yes, but they are not strong enough, he said seriously. Sigh, it's okay to go tomorrow to Kuoh, said the brown-haired boy as he stood up and started to walk. Azazel, hey kid, he said, getting the brown-haired boy's attention. Penemu and Vile are worried about you, he said. Tell him this. Azazel, said the brown-haired man annoyed. Stop worrying about me. I'm not your son and I will no longer recognize you as my parents, he said as he continued walking. Azazel just kept quiet. Azazel, Penemu and Vile can come out now, he said, making a beautiful violet-haired woman come out. She appeared to be 26 years old, and next to her a dark-haired man who appeared to be 30 years old tall. Penemu, Vile, both of them had a sad face while Azazel stared at them. Penemu, I see Cham, she said sadly. While she was shedding some tears, the man hugged Lita and then the violet-haired girl started to cry. The chestnut had already arrived at a house when he entered while turning on the light and sitting on a chair. Until the chestnut tree hears a voice. Issei-sam, said a female voice. At that the brown-haired boy turns around and looks at a beautiful redhead. Issei, what are you doing? Wake up, said the brown-haired boy, and other voices are heard in the place. Issei-san/Issei-sama/Issei-kun, said four female voices. At that the brown-haired man turned around and could see a beautiful brown-haired woman with green eyes, a beautiful brunette, a blue-haired woman, an albino woman, and finally a violet-haired woman. Issei, Chisato, Maria, Yuki, Zetsu, Kurumi, the brunette said, surprised. Chisato, what happened? Issei, are you a bit stressed? Said the brunette looking at Issei. Issei, sigh, I think this is going to be a long night, he said, and then spoke to the girls. 1 year ago. You can see a house where the Hayato family lives. Goru and his wife Miki Hayato, followed by their 3 sons Isaac Hayato. He is the oldest of the Hayato brothers, followed by his brother Yasuka Hayato. And the last one is Hayato Issei, the younger brother. You could say it's a happy family, but in reality it isn't, since Issei Asu suffered abuse from his brothers and parents because his brothers simply had sacred gears, unlike Issei who had nothing when they discovered the supernatural thanks to Rias Gremory, a very beautiful red-headed girl, but she never knew the consequences that would bring Issei. Since Issei turned 8 years old he ended up receiving beatings from his parents and brothers, all because of his arrogance. Sometimes they hit him with chains, burned his arms and legs, and if that weren't enough, they had him branded as if he were an animal to be sacrificed. The boy lost all the beams in his eyes and became a lonely person, his hatred towards his own family, and he grew up until the day he arrived at Kuoh High School. Wherever he was, he had met a beautiful brunette girl. This was Murayama, the current captain of the Kendo Club. It could be said that they were happy, but all that will change one day when Issei will discover the harsh truth of everything. Rain. Kuoh town was under a thunderstorm. The contacts drops of water fall on the chestnut, who is Asia and next still from school, all beaten up while he had new wounds on his left eye. He was losing blood due to his sister who cut his eyebrow and passed over his eyes. Issei stood up and started walking towards a building that was 3 blocks from Kuoh's high school. While he was seen by a brunette woman who had a smile on her face. I can't help the face Issei will make when he sees the beautiful gift I have prepared for him with my brother Isaac. Haha, laughed the brunette. In that on the right arm of the chestnut appears the Bostiger. How can you do this to your brother, Jessica, said a voice that Jessica ignored. Remember what I tell you later. Don't regret your decision, said the voice to disappear. The brown-haired boy's body was covered in blood. His clothes also had not disappeared yet, as well as his eye, which was still bleeding. Finally, the brown-haired boy arrived at his destination at last. A normal building where many feminine women who study in this Kuoh Academy. The brown-haired boy headed to where his current girlfriend Murayama resided. While the brown-haired boy was walking, Issei suddenly stops at the door. When he is about to knock on the door, he starts to hear loud moans coming from inside Murayama's room. A part of Issei wanted to leave the place, and the other part had to accept that his girlfriend was cheating on him with another man, and another part did not want to believe that. With determination, the chestnut opens the door, and upon entering, the chestnut lost all his willpower. At that moment, something in Issei broke. In front of the brown-haired man was his brother, thrusting with lust into the naked body of his girlfriend Murayama, who was screaming the name of another man. Both individuals continued having sex in front of Issei. His brother looked at him with evil, while Murayama only continued moaning. At that, Isaac runs inside Murayama, making him scream, while Issei had a blank look while he continued crying in silence. When Isaac was speaking, Issei said, "Issei is Lebanto," and ran out of the place. His brother didn't care and savagely attacked Murayama again. Issei went out of the building, and then he saw his sister in front of him, who had a smile that reflected evil. "What happened, sister?" But he couldn't finish speaking because Issei had run out of the place, leaving his sister, who couldn't erase the smile from her face. Hee. "When you go home, what awaits you," she said, "is to look at a certain place. Have fun, Isaac, with Murayama," she said to leave the place. Issei had arrived at the park while the rain fell on him. The blood from his eye did not stop. Narrates Issei. "I admired my brothers and loved my parents, but one day everything changed. My brothers became arrogant. My parents hit me senselessly. And all because I didn't have a sacred gear. But I don't know what to do anymore." Issei's thoughts wander. Who was sitting on a bench. Then he hears a voice. "I could help you," boy, said a male voice. Chapter 1. "I can help you, boy," said a male voice, and then the whole place where the brown-haired man was changes. In that, the brown-haired man can see a man sitting on a throne who looked at Issei amused. "Issei, who are you?" said the brown-haired boy nervously. While the man looked at him calmly. "My name is Mephisto, and I can help you with whatever you want," he said to the now known as Mephisto. "Issei, how can you help me?" said this nervously. "Mephisto, I know what you want, and I can fulfill that wish," he said while looking at the brown-haired man. "Issei, how do you know what I want?" said he, looking at the demon. "Mephisto, I know what you want, and I am the only one who can give it to you above all pain, punishment, and revenge," said the man. "You could say that those are my qualities," said this one. The man spoke to him for quite some time, promising that I would help him with his revenge, but also that I would give him the power to do it. "Mephisto, just say my name, Issei, and the deal will be done," said this one. Then the chestnut tells him. "Issei, me, Mephisto," said the brown-haired boy. At that moment, the brown-haired boy's body began to light up. His face began to burn, while his eyes began to burst into flames, while Mephisto laughed. "Mephisto, ha 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 ha," laughed the demon. "Now enjoy your power. When the time is, I will look for you, and you will do the job that I tell you. You will be my avenger. You will now be the spirit of vengeance," shouted this one. At that point, the chestnut's body caught fire, now showing a burning skull while all his clothes were intact. While chains came out of the avenger's arm, the skull looks at the whole place was back in the square and that he is on foot to walk. The avenger was walking as he moved further away from Kuoh until he heard a scream. "Kaya, help!" a female voice shouted, making the avenger stop. "Innocent blood is being shed," said this one with a demonic voice, while you think about walking towards the voice that screamed. In an alley, a skinny man was found. While he had a woman against the wall, he was pointing a gun at her neck. "Give me the damn money, save yourself, damn boy," the criminal growled angrily. "The girl is forcing the man." "Ruer!" Both individuals heard a roar. When the person looked, they could see a man on fire who was looking at the two individuals. At that, the man stops flirting with the girl. The Avenger gives him a signal to leave. The woman just nods and runs away from the place, leaving the Avenger and the man who looked terrifying. At that, the Avenger points his hand at her. "Avenger, your hands are stained with the blood of the innocent," she said with Monica's voice while approaching the man who took out a knife to stab the Avenger. But just as he stabbed the Avenger, the knife melted, making the Avenger see it. Then the Avenger grabs him by the neck and slams him against the wall. "Avenger, look me in the eyes. Your blood is stained with the blood of the innocent. Suffer their pain," said this one. At that, the man starts to scream while he sees everything he did, but suddenly his head starts to catch fire, making him scream more in desperation. At that, the man stops screaming. The Avenger throws him towards the neck, while he walks again towards an indefinite blonde during the night. The next day, you can see a chestnut lying on his neck with his Kuoh Academy clothes still stained with blood. In this room, he opens his eyes when he wakes up and can see what was next to him. Near a road. "Issei, my head, where am I?" said the brown-haired boy, looking around the place until he realized he was near the road. "What the hell am I doing here?" he said, unable to believe it until he grabbed his head. "On my head hurts," complained the brown-haired boy as he stood up. At that point, he started to look at the place until he started to walk north. The chestnut was walking until he saw a transporter that said "Welcome to Tokyo," making the chestnut go into shock. "Issei, what am I doing in Tokyo?" he said. "I can't believe it. How did I get here?" the brown-haired man said, continuing to walk. A week later. A week had passed since Issei had arrived in Tokyo. Let's say it wasn't the best, since he met two people, a beautiful violet-haired woman and a black-haired man who found the brown-haired man in an alley with shots from serious wounds. In that, they helped the brown-haired man who was unconscious until he woke up. Where am I?" said the brown-haired boy who could barely stand up. "I see that you have already woken up," said a female voice with concern, making the brown-haired man continue and look at a beautiful woman with beautiful violet hair. "Who are you and where am I?" said the brown-haired boy. While he manages to sit on the bed, he sees that he had bandages all over his body. "You are in my house where my husband and I found you yesterday in a badly damaged alley," said the woman. "I see, thank you, I suppose," said this man who feels the woman's aura and puts on the net. "Do you know where my clothes are?" "I have to go," he said, uncomfortable because of the woman's presence, who looked at him strangely. "Hey, calm down." No, he couldn't finish because the brown-haired boy pointed his fingers at him, and they caught fire. "Tell me now, where are my clothes?" Suddenly the brown-haired man's voice became demonic, while his whole body began to release smoke, making the woman step back and look in astonishment at the brown-haired man. "He has a sacred gear that I've never seen before. I have to warn Azazel," the woman thought as she spoke again. "Calm down, boy. I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Penemy," she said, trying to calm the boy down. At that, the brown-haired man lowers his hands and sighs before speaking. Sigh. "My name is Issei. Just Issei, tell me what you are." "You are not a demon, you have another different energy," said Issei, who looked seriously at Penemy. She is surprised and curious as to how the boy knew about it supernaturally. At that, he spreads his angel wings, but unlike this one, they were black, making the brown-haired boy get serious. Just like the violet-haired girl knew that Issei was not someone normal, and she was going to discover it now. Chapter 2. "Issei, if I end up like this," thought the brown-haired man who was sitting quietly eating with Penemy and Vile at a table. "But how did the chestnut tree end up like that?" We have to go back 2 days to what happened that same afternoon when the chestnut tree woke up. 2 days ago. When Penemy showed his fallen angel wings, Issei got serious. "Penemy, I am a fallen angel. Unlike normal angels, we fell for sinning or having sexual relations with other angels," she said seriously. Issei, damn, what was missing, thought Issei, who had an annoyed look. "Wow, that explains a lot," he said sarcastically. "Penemy, well, I want to know how you know about supernatural beings and how you ended up like this," she said seriously without looking away from the brown-haired man who was giving her a cold and emotionless look. "Issei, because I would say something to you, dirty crow," said the brown-haired man coldly. "Penemy, I think you can call me by my name. Don't you think so?" "I see," she said kindly. Issei, "No, besides, I don't trust beings like you, so give me my clothes so I can get out of here," he said, annoyed. While he stands up, he sees that he has black pants. Penemy is surprised because Issei can stand up and is talking. "Penemy, hey, what are you doing?" "Lie down, your wounds haven't healed," she said again, grabbing his shoulder. But when he touched it, Issei turned around and grabbed his hand to suddenly push it away, making the brown-haired boy start to transform. Penemy gets scared when she saw Issei transformed. Issei stands up and approaches the fallen one, making it stand up and then creates a spear of light. Penemy, I don't want to take any damage, so don't force me to use it, he said while preparing to attack Issei, but he points his finger at him and speaks to him. Issei, innocent, he says to the fallen one, making her confused about that. The brown-haired boy detransforms, making her start to breathe heavily. In the Penemy, the spear of light disappears and runs to help Issei, and then sits him on the bed. Penemy, it can't be this sacred gears will be the one that Azazel was investigating if 2 months ago the one we saw was a man with a black jacket, and he was also an adult, she said as she looked at Issei, who was breathing with a sharp mind. I have to tell Azazel about this now, she thought while getting up. Issei, I'll be back, stay here if he said at that. The brown-haired man looks at her. Issei sighs, what does it matter? I have nowhere else to go, so I'll stay a little longer, and then leave here, he said seriously while the fallen one just nods. At that, Penemy leaves the room to go to the kitchen, and then make a magic circle. Penemy, hello Azazel. I have something that might be interesting, he said in a communicator. 1 hour later, Penemy had brought the clothes to Issei, who put them on and then went down and sat on the chair while Penemy was cooking while listening to music. Issei starts to sing in a low voice too, thinking that Penemy wasn't listening to him. But that wasn't the case. Watch my chest rise as my last breath leaves me. Penemy was listening carefully as Issei was singing that part. I'm trying to be whatever you're dying to see. I feel like shit, I can't do this. Issei stands up to remember the times he tried to get his parents' attention. No more. This heart is breaking. This life is miserable. How could you abandon me? In that, Issei remembers how he discovered Murayama having sex with his brother, causing Issei's heart to break. You made us racist. You allowed us to hate each other. Nothing but distrust. And I'm so fed up. Issei starts to remember how Murayama played with his feelings, making him hate himself for having trusted her while he is now distrustful of women. Let a gun unite us. Let us hide in this lust when we become dust. Suddenly Issei falls silent, as does Penemy, since both feel two energies that makes Issei become defensive, but Penemy speaks first. Penemy, calm down, I see they are good people, she said, putting on a smile that made the brown-haired girl relax. Then 2 people entered. A black-haired man with a yellow streak next to a black-haired man who appeared to be 30 years old. Honey, are you okay? Said the older man as he stood next to Penemy. Penemy, if I'm fine, you have nothing to worry about, Vile, said the violet-haired girl lovingly to kiss the black-haired boy's lips. Issei ignored all this and kept looking at the man who wouldn't stop looking at him. Issei, if you're going to see me so much, take a picture so it lasts, said this annoyed man as he looked at him, making Penemy and Vile look at them. Hey, you're funny boy, my name is Azazel, leaders of the fallen angels, he said amusedly while the brown-haired boy continued looking seriously at the fallen one. Issei, sigh, can I know what the hell they have me here for, said he somewhat irritated. At that, Penemy, Vile, and Azazel sit at the table while looking at the chestnut. Azazel, first we want to know how you know the supernatural, and your history, he said seriously. Issei, this day will be very long, said the brown-haired boy, even if he is still standing. He is going to tell his whole life when he found out about the supernatural, the beatings from his parents, the abuse at school, until the day his brothers betrayed him by saying that his brother Isaac had sex with his sister, forbidding the deal he made with Mephisto, and that would be all, said the brown-haired boy simply. And then he receives a hug from Penemy, surprising the brown-haired boy. Issei, get off me, he said abruptly, pushing Penemy away so that she almost fell, making her husband and Azazel look at him. Nobody asked you to feel sorry for me. You understood, he said annoyed while his body began to release smoke from his body. In that, Azazel speaks. Azazel, calm down boy. We are more than you, so try to calm down, said this seriously while preparing to attack Penemy to see the intentions speak. Penemy, please calm down, he said while the adults looked at her. Sorry about that, I see, he apologized, making both adults look at him. Issei, tisk whatever, said the brown-haired boy annoyed. Vile did not look kindly on the brown-haired boy. In that time, a while passed where they made a deal for Issei to stay like that. Azazel, Penemy and Vile help him train the brown-haired boy, who accepted, but they gave him a condition that he stays to live with Penemy and Vile, making Azazel and Vile looked at the fallen Hexy one present. The chestnut had finished eating when he got up from the table, and then put on a black jacket. Penemy, Issei, where are you going? I asked curiously, making the brown-haired man stop. Issei, I'm going out for a while. See you, he said as he left the house, making Penemu and Vile be in silence. Vile sigh, tell me Penemu why you wanted the boy to stay here, said this seriously, looking at the fallen. Penemu, why are you asking that now? She said curiously. Vile, I just want to know why you told him that the boy should stay with us if he suggested living in a hotel, he said. Penemu, I just want to help him, at least so he can have a life. At least a normal life, she said. Besides, you know that we will never be able to have a child. It would be nice if Issei called me mom, she said somewhat sadly. Vile remained silent. It was obvious that he and she would never be able to have a child with Ivan since Penemu is sterile. Vile only gave a small smile. Vile, I think you're right. We have to give the boy a quiet life, said happily, Penemu nodding. But what no one knew is that Issei was listening to everything. After hearing that last thing, he started walking. Issei, tisk, who do you think you are? I'm never going to tell you, father and mother. No one will stop me from fulfilling my revenge, he said, clenching his fists to continue walking. Chapter 3. Issei was walking through the busy streets of Tokyo. While walking, suddenly he stopped suddenly to look at a bar where there were several motorcycles. The chased walks towards the bar and then enters. Inside, the brown-haired man had entered the bar. Many people looked at him curiously. Issei tried not to get upset since the Avenger felt the criminals. Who was watching that? The brown-haired man sits on that. One of them approaches Issei. Hello, sir, what do you need? The girl asked. Issei, bring me a beer, please, said the brown-haired boy. The waitress nodded and went to get the beer. When it arrives, I gave Issei the beer. He starts drinking the beer, and then a group of motorcyclists approach the chestnut tree while surrounding him. Hey kid, you're not home yet, said a tall, muscular man. The brown-haired man just ignores him and continues drinking his beer. At that moment, the man hits the table, making the brown-haired man look at him. But just as the brown-haired man looks at him, his whole body is about to burn. Issei, your hands are stained with the blood of innocent Delos, the brown-haired boy murmured in a low voice. At that, the man hits the chestnut's face while everyone just stood up and took out their wings. Demon, how does this one know? He couldn't finish as he was sent flying. Everyone else saw Issei standing up laughing. Issei, ha 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 ha, to ha 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 ha, laughed the brown-haired boy while he transformed. In that, the brown-haired boy, already transformed into Ghost Raider, hits the demon in the face, sending him crashing. Roar rare! Fueled the roar of Ghost Raider as he walked like that all the demons. In that, he receives a blow from a demon, sending him crashing into the other side of the wall, destroying it in the process. This call outside the building. In that, 4 demons come out, and you can see Ghost Raider standing. Demon, what the buck are you, trash? Shouted one as he threw himself at Ghost. This hits Ghost in the stomach, making him take a few steps back, but before the demon can attack him, some chains appeared next to the Avenger, while he was on fire, and was trying to spin the chains. Then he throws the chain at the demon, who dodges it. Demon, I failed. He couldn't finish as the chain appeared above him. What demon? He didn't continue as the chain quickly wrapped around his neck. It was the only thing he could say as his head fell to the ground. All the other demons in it were afraid. Ghost RUARR was the roar of the Avenger, who launched himself at the demons. Along the way, Ghost entangles the demons with his chains. In a swift movement, the Avenger throws off the chains, splitting the demons in half. The Avenger stares at the demons, who thought of retreating. Demon 1, get away, damn MAUSTRO. He shouted, throwing a spell at the Avenger, who is with his chains makes a slash, undoing the demon's attack, while the part of the demon's head ended up splitting in half, revealing the lower part of the demon's tongue, who falls dead. Ghost, his hands are stained with the blood of innocent Delos, said the Avenger. 3 of the 5 demons that remained tried to flee from the Avenger. As they flew out, several chains grabbed their legs, preventing them from escaping. In that, the Avenger makes a quick move, making the chains intertwine with the other chains, where all the demons collided with each other, making all this come together. In that, the Avenger creates a ball of fire which he throws at the demons. Boom! A gigantic explosion was seen in the sky as parts of demons fell to the sky, causing a rain of blood. None of the remaining demons did anything, but a demon launched a magical attack at the Avenger's head, causing his skull to crack. Ghost, good try, devil, said this, annoyed while he was trying to walk towards the demon that launched the attack. But you're only delaying the inevitable, said the Avenger, while he appeared in front of the demon, where he puts his hand on his head and then sets fire to the head of the demon, who was screaming. The demon ends up dying on fire. As he fell dead, all the remaining demons just retreat. The Avenger turns around and looks at the rest of the demons, who looked at him in terror. Avenger, guilty. roared the Avenger as he threw fire from his mouth, burning all the remaining demons, making them sad. The whole place was destroyed. The Avenger turned around while he was trying to walk towards where the motorcycles were. When they got to where the motorcycles were, he approached a black woman and looked at her. Avenger, he has no style, said this one while putting his hand on the motorcycle, while the motorcycle started to change into a more demonic form. In that, the gentle Avenger to the motorcycle wherever he is accelerates the motorcycle, destroying the place. Change of scene. You can see a redhead next to an albino loli as Ivan walked towards his house. Mio-sama, we are close, said the albino wing known as Mio. Mine, yes, you're right, Maria. It's been a while since I saw Penemu and Vile-sama, said the redhead happily. Maria, my sama, what will we do if they find out who we are, she said. Mine, will just erase their memory so they don't look for us. And we're fine since blackout didn't help us find them, she said calmly. Maria sigh, if we start the academy next week, she said calmly. Mine just smiled as they had already reached their destination. Change of scene. You could see a group of men who had assault rifles. All of them were in front of a black-haired man who had several dark wings behind him, while there were 5 men who had monk's robes. Everything is ready, Kokabile-sama, said a fat man. Kokabile, ha ha, thanks human, said the fallen one who grabbed the boxes. The 2 monks and Ivan in a portal, well, take this. And see you, said the fallen one to leave also in a magic circle. At that moment the men started to hear the noise of a motorcycle until, boom! An explosion was heard as everyone turned around and saw a man with a skull whose entire back was destroyed. At that, the Avenger suddenly stops and gets off the motorcycle while taking out his chains while they are surrounding his body. Ghost, guilty, said this one, throwing the chains to the men. This is when they think of shooting the Avenger, making him receive the full attack. But the chains also affect the soldiers who fall to the ground. Damaged by this, the chains return to all the soldiers. The Avenger sets fire to the chains, making them start screaming in despair. At that moment, the leader of the gang tries to escape, but some chains grab his legs, causing him to fall to the ground. The Avenger starts walking towards the boss who was lying on the ground while the Avenger arrives in front of him. Boss W, who are you, said this one, eating while the Avenger stands still in front of him. Ghost, my name is Zarathos, said the Avenger, takes the boss by the neck, and I will punish you, said this one. Ghost, look me in the eyes, your blood is stained with the blood of the innocent, suffers from your pain, said the Avenger. At that, the man starts to scream desperately while his head starts to catch fire while he sees all the things he did. Minutes later, the Avenger gets back on the motorcycle, and then he accelerates the motorcycle. While he was moving away from the place, what he didn't know was that there was someone who was watching him. Wow, the Avenger now is stronger than I thought, said a man who was sitting on a motorcycle. Next to him was a man who was riding a horse who had a hat on his head. You're right, Johnny, said the man. Johnny, do you think he can do it? Carter, said Johnny. Carter, time will tell, Johnny, but it's time to go. It's not the time yet, said the man on the horse who transformed into a fire skeleton. Johnny, you're right, said this one as he turned on the motorcycle and transformed. At that point, both individuals disappear from the place. With Issei, this one was riding the motorcycle still transformed while the sun is about to rise. At that moment I was standing and saw a car going at full speed while it had run over several people. Ghost blood is being shed of the innocents, he said while accelerating the motorcycle, leaving a trail behind him. Chapter 4. Issei, who was now lying in bed, then begins to wake up. When he opens his eyes, he can see a beautiful redhead who was on top of him. Issei, who starts blinking until he realizes. Issei, who are you, said this nervously while he looked away while the redhead continued moving. How rude. Yesterday you arrived late where Penemu Okasan and Vile Otosan helped you, and my name is Mine Oni-chan, said the redhead innocently. Issei, wait. Penemu Okasan and Vile Otosan. Did I hear it right? The brown-haired man thought until he remembered the last thing. Wait. That was the last thing you said, he said nervously. Mine, I told you, Anakam, she said. She was amused. At that, the brown-haired man's hair covered his eyes. This seemed strange to the redhead who was going to ask, but the brown-haired man spoke. Issei, go away, he said in a low voice. Mine, what did you say? Oni, he couldn't continue because the brown one spoke to him. Issei, I told you to leave now, he shouted as his eyes began to shine. That caught the attention of everyone in the house, who quickly went up to where Issei was. Mio just gets down while some tears come to Penemu along with Vile and Maria, who saw the redhead leave crying while Maria left with the redhead, while Penemu and Vile looked at the brown-haired man who had just gotten up. Penemu, can I know what happened? She asked. She was serious. Issei, that's none of your business, fallen angel, said this annoyed one while putting his hand on his head. Ah, how did I get here yesterday, asked this one. Penemu dash, sigh. This is going to be very difficult for him to open up to other people, thought the fall. Vile, you arrived at 7 in the morning. Your transformation was over. The second thing is, where did you get the motorcycle, said the black-haired man. Issei just gets confused as he puts his hand on his head. Issei, shit, my head is burning so much, he said while putting his hand on his head. I don't remember almost anything. The only thing I know is that I entered a bar where, despite having a beer, then a group of gang members surrounded me, and he said while trying to remember. Penemu, and I asked this. Issei, I don't remember anything about there because, said this one while his head was still burning. Don't you have a bottle of ice water, asked this one while he was holding his head. Vile, first change and apologize to me and then come downstairs and get your water, he said as he left. Penemu, I'll explain to you about mine later, she said as she left the brown-haired boy alone. Issei, this day Sarah was very long, said this one while he was thinking about changing. Change of scene. The brown-haired boy was going down the path they knew when he saw the redhead next to the albino. The redhead looks away while Issei sighs. Issei, sigh, give me patience, God, thought the brown-haired boy. Mine right, asked the brown-haired boy to the redhead. Mine if you want, he said in a bad way. Issei, I want to apologize for what happened this morning, he said while bowing. Mio just looks at him like Maria. Mine, it's okay, you, I forgive you this time, he said. Issei, okay, my name is Issei, just Issei, while he shook hands with Mine, who returned the greeting. Mine, my name is Mio Nazier, he said while shaking Issei's hand. Then the chestnut tree sees Maria. Issei, nice to meet you. I'm Issei, he said while shaking the lowly's hand. Maria, nice to meet you, Issei-san. My name is Maria, she said while responding to the greeting. Then the brown-haired boy goes to the refrigerator, since he couldn't stand the pain in his head any longer. He starts to drink ice water while Mino and Maria looked at them. Issei, hhhh, much better, said this one. At that moment, Azazel arrives along with Penemu and Vile, and Issei just sits down while the whole place becomes tense. Azazel, Issei, do you remember what you did yesterday? He said seriously. Issei, no, I don't remember much. To be honest, I'm sure they already told you the truth, he said, while raising an eyebrow. Azazel, yes, Penemu warned me, he said seriously. Look at the redhead and the albino. Hello, my name is Azazel, he said, putting on a smile. Mine, you are Azazel Penemu Okasan. He told me that you are a lazy person who barely does his job. Maria, he's also a geek who spends all day in the lab. Mine/Mary, besides that you were rejected by Gabriel, they said in unison, assuming that Azazel has an aura of depreciation. Issei, Penemu and Vile just laughed. Azazel, these children no longer respect their elders, he muttered. Penemu, Issei, he said, calling the attention of the brown-haired boy, I have to tell you that now you are our son since we gave you, he said, showing the papers. Issei, puf, spitting out the water. Wait, what did you say? He said incredulously, ignoring Azazel, who was stunned by the water that Issei spat at him. Vile, what you heard, you stopped being Hayato, and now you will be Issei Tuju, he said, putting on a smile. Penemu, and now Issei-kun, that heiress with the motorcycle you brought, said this. Issei, wait, what bike besides? Who said to adopt me? He said again, but was completely ignored. Mine, Issei-san, your bike is incredible, said this one while she was leaving, being followed by Maria and Vile and Penemu, while the brown one and goes after them, ignoring Azazel. Azazel, bu, but I'm here, he said to himself while there was no one in the dining room. I'm all alone, he said as he went to where the kids were. With Issei, they reached where the motorcycle was. Issei, and well, where is the motorcycle? Said this one. In that, Mine and Maria point with their finger where the motorcycle is, surprising the chestnut. Issei, wow, incredible, said this one. Penemu, I'll let you stay, Issei, until you turn 17, she said. Issei, really, I ask. Vile, if it doesn't have an owner, so keep it. I'll teach you how to drive, he said. Then Azazel arrives. Azazel, wow, boy, you really have taste, said this one, but continued without endo, completely ignoring him. Cough, cough, he pretended. At that, everyone turns around and looks at him. Maria, you're still here, didn't you tell me? Azazel-sama is gone, she said. Mine, I thought Azazel-sama had gone, said the redhead. Azazel, well, boy, let's see each other to go train this weekend before you start the academy, said this seriously. Issei academy, this one asked. Penemu, that's right, I'm not going to keep a bum in my house. And Maria and I will also go to the same academy as you, she said. Issei, it's okay, said this resignedly. Azazel, okay, let's go, he said, being followed by Issei. Change of scene. Two chestnuts could be seen walking in the Kuoh Academy uniform, And have you heard anything? Jessica asked the brown-haired man. Jessica no Isaac. Since that day Issei had not appeared, said this while they arrived at the academy. Isaac, let's study the layers and find it, he said as he went inside, followed by Jessica. Chapter 5. You can see a chestnut tree who was in the middle of a beautiful field. Issei, hey, where am I? Said the chaste one as he began to walk. As the chestnut tree walked in the place, far away he saw a figure who had white wings. Issei, an angel? Then I'm in heaven? Said the brown-haired man who was walking towards the man with wings. While the brown-haired man was a few steps away, he saw another man arrive with white wings and black hair. Zarathos, did you find out what Father did to Uriel? Said the black-haired man. Zarathos, it's your punishment for not following Father Lucifer's order, said Zarathos, who stood up and faced Lucifer. Lucifer, don't you think Father has gone too far with his punishment? Said Lucifer. Zarathos, this is the punishment he deserves for not following Father Lucifer's orders, said Zarathos. Lucifer sigh. Okay, I have to go see you, Zarathos, he said while taking out his wings and flying away. Zarathos and Issei watched as Lucifer walked away from them. Zarathos, Lucifer, you have darkness in your heart. I hope you don't try to rebel, he said, turning back to look at the ground. The chestnut heard everything and was surprised. Issei, maybe this is a memory, said the brown-haired boy. Asia, Zarathos approaches, but suddenly the place turns black. What happened? Said this one. The darkness starts to consume Issei and, out of the dream, the chestnut sees that he is in his apartment. While looking around he sees the clock and sees that it is 5:30 in the morning. Issei, what the hell was that dream? He said to himself while putting his hand on his head. What the hell is happening to me? He said while lying down again. Change of scene. The brown-haired man was standing in front of a black-haired man who had a long beard. So you're the brat that Azazel asked me to train you? It doesn't seem like much, said the black-haired boy. Issei just stared at him and turned his gaze to where Azazel and Vile were, both of whom looked at him with a smile. The brown-haired man looked at the black-haired man who seemed to be covered in lightning. Okay, here I go, brat, he said, throwing some powerful rays at the brown-haired boy who barely managed to dodge him. Issei, that was circa, he thought while dodging another attack. But a careless moment on his part caused a lightning bolt to strike the chestnut tree in the chestnut tree's chest, causing it to crash against the wall. Issei pwag, spitting blood. Shit, that attack hurt me, he said while his eyes began to shine. Wow, I'm surprised you're still standing, said the fallen one. Issei, you'll have to do better than that, fallen, said this one while standing up to take smoke out of his body. All those present were surprised to see in one part an albino next to a woman of great attributes. Who is that, Naya? Said the woman curiously. I have no idea, but this is going to get interesting, said the albino. In the fight, Issei was dodging the attacks while the fallen one launches several attacks at once, surprising the brown-haired man who receives it fully. Boom! A small explosion occurred in the place, causing Vile and Azazel to worry about the chestnut tree. The fallen one who looked at the place that was destroyed and at a figure in pieces to come out of smoke, and that everyone sees that the brown one comes out who had all the clothes destroyed, while in several wounds could be seen he had some bones outside the place. You could see a part of his face burned, leaving everyone worried, just like the fallen one who launched the attack. Suddenly the brown-haired man stands up to transform, surprising everyone. Issei, now I'm really upset, said the brown-haired boy while his body transformed. Ghost, my turn, he said while some chains appeared in the Avenger's hand. Azazel, wow, it's the same as the one we saw 2 months ago, he said while putting on a smile. Vile, no mellow. Remember, he didn't really give a beating, he said. In the fight, Ghost and the fallen one were staring at each other. At that, Ghost throws his chain at him while the fallen one threw a ray towards the chains to block the blow. It was of little use since the chain destroyed the attack, causing the black-haired man to be surprised and receive the attack full on, causing him to retreat. But Ghost didn't stay there. He stomped on the ground, making the ground crack. Everyone on the ground was screaming as he headed towards the fallen man, who saw this when he took out his wings to fly. Several chains came out of the ground, surprising everyone. All the chains that came out of the ground managed to grab the fallen one, surprising everyone instead. The Avenger looks at him while using his hands to tighten the grip on the fallen one who is standing, making a moan of pain. Ghost, tell me how it feels, said the Avenger while applying more force to the chains. At that, the Avenger starts walking towards where the fallen one was. Where he is, he grabs the chain from the ground where he looks at him. Ghost. Ha 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 ha. He laughed while with a quick movement he threw the fallen man to the ground, creating a huge crater and leaving the fallen man badly injured. At that Issei detransforms while he falls to his knees on the ground. Issei shit, this is the first time it took so long to control him, he said as he stood up. At that several angels took the fallen wounded man while Vile and Azazel approached. Azazel, surprised me boy, you're great, said this happily while writing everything down in a diary. Issei just looks at Vile, he just freezes his shoulder. While the brown-haired boy sees that he has chains on his arm. Change of scene. Penemu could be seen with Maria and Mine, who were in a store shopping together. Penemu, and you like Issei, asked this mischievous mind. At that the redhead is embarrassed while Maria watches this amused. Mine, what are you saying? Penemu Okasan, she answered embarrassed. Maria, if my Sama doesn't seem cute to you, Issei-san, she said amused. Penemu fufufu, yes mine. Besides, he is your age, so why don't you take advantage of being young, girl, he said while winking at her. Mind W what they say, she said embarrassed as she left there. Penemu and Maria smile amusedly at the redhead's embarrassment. Penemu, this girl is a complete innocent fufufufu, she said amused. Maria, yes, you're right, Penemu-sama Gigi, she said she is also. In that Penemu looks at her just like her. Penemu, you have managed to take good care of her, Maria, she said seriously. Maria, thank you Penemu-sama, but it was also thanks to your help and that of Vile-sama that I was able to protect mine, she said seriously. Penemu, it's weird you know, said this one while the albino looks at her, that she is a demon. And you a succubus, but of a higher rank, said Sari. Maria, if the hell of now is not the one that is now, she said seriously. Penemu, I still can't believe there are two hells, she said while Maria shrugged her shoulders. Change of scene. You could see Penemu, Vile, Maria, Mio, and Issei all sitting together eating. Issei, wow, this is delicious, said this one while he continued cooking. Penemu, you should thank Mio and Maria. They did their best so that you would like it, she said. That makes mine blush while Maria laughs. Issei, oh, it's very delicious, Maria and mine will be great wives in the future, said this one, making the mentioned ones blush. Maria, thank you very much, I see Sam, he is round while looking away. Mio GGR, thanks I see San, she said blushing. Penemu and Vile smiled at this funny moment. The Senna went by normally. You saw a few conversations together, a few jokes, to the embarrassment of Issei and me. Change of scene. You can see Brown, who is washing the dishes in the dishwasher when my friend arrives. Mine, do you want help? Issei-san asked the redhead. Issei, sure if you don't mind, replied the brown-haired boy. Mine is only a small family, and some dishes are drying. Mine, how was your life before coming to live with Penemu Okasan and Vile Otosan? She asked. At that the brunette stops suddenly, making the redhead look at him. Mine, sorry if I inconvenienced you. She didn't finish speaking because Issei interrupted her. Issei, don't worry. I'll tell you, said this one. That of mine starts to pay attention sigh. Where in the world I know, said this one. Before coming here I lived in Kuoh. I had two brothers. One was called Isaac. The other was called Yasuka Hayato. When we were kids we always played together. My parents loved all three of us equally, said this one. Mine, what happened next? He asked again while leaving the last clean plate in the dishwasher. Issei turns around where he signals to Mine to follow him to the couch. She follows him where they both sit together. Issei, one day while we were playing in the park with our new friend Irina, a red-haired girl with green eyes arrived. Her name was Rias Gremery. She arrived and asked us if she could play with us. The four of us said yes, he said, sigh. A couple of weeks passed where we got to know Rias more. In that time, everything was happiness until that day that would change my life forever, he said. One day Rias Decidio came to our house where she told the truth to my brothers and Ami along with our parents. She said that she was a high-class demon and that my brothers had two sacred gears, weapons created by the biblical god. My sister had the Bostigir where the Red Emperor resides. Drake and his brother Isaac had Krom Kruch, another Longinus, and when I asked him if I had one, he said no, but said that we would always remain friends. I was happy, but my parents were a separate case and my brothers supported me and they told me that they would always protect me. After a while Rias went back to her house, said the brown-haired boy. When Rias left, around 5 months passed where my brothers began to change. They became begging. My parents ignored me. Even after a while they began to hit me senselessly. My brothers used to bully me at school together with other boys. The day I was about to turn 9 years old was the worst day of my life, said this one. I had arrived home. I was happy. My brothers treated me well and did not bother me. My parents had also treated me well. I was happy, but when I got home, said this one, to stop me in my tracks while I was about to shed some tears. When I got home I saw my parents together with my brothers and their friends. When I was about to say hello my sister hit me in the balls. Then everyone waited to hit me while my parents saw me. They just smiled seeing me like this. Every hit hurt me. I Wanted them to stop. I had broken several ribs. My parents started telling me things. You are a disgrace. I hate you. I wish I had upset you. You simply disgust me. And many more things, she said, crying. Mine, Issei, I'm sorry. If I could do something, he said. Issei, no, you can't do anything, mine. It's not. When I was 8 years old, I always wondered what Issei was. To reserve that deal, I learned to read. I learned to shave on my own. I had my first girlfriend without anyone to help me. I spent 7 years taking care of myself without anyone's help. Never in my life have I received help from anyone, and I won't need it, he said while they were crying. Mine, I see, she said. Issei, you know one thing about me. I'm going to finish the academy without their help. I'm going to try to have a normal life, where I'll meet a girl, where I'll have several children, and I'll be a much better father than mine was. And I assure you that they'll never need it again. Because there isn't a damn thing they can teach me. The love of a father to a child, said Issei while crying. How is it possible that he doesn't love me, he said while crying. In that of mine, I hugged Issei while she also cried. Chapter 6. After the talk that Issei had with Mio, where Issei was able to get out everything he had inside, but no one realized that they were listening to them, and that was Penemu, Azazel, Vile, and Maria. They were all shedding tears because of Issei's words. Penemu is Issei-kun, he said while hugging Maria. Azazel, poor boy, said Azazel. Maria, I'm still surprised that you're still going after everything that happened, said the lowly. Vio remained silent as she watched Issei Mio burned while they cried. Change of scene. Issei was sleeping on the couch while Mio caressed the brown-haired boy's hair. Mine, how many things you went through, and yet you still keep going. I see, Sam said. She is about to approach the brunette's face and give him a kiss on the lips. In that she separates where she turns red while she takes a hand to her lips. I gave him my first kiss, said this one. The next day, everyone was in the living room having breakfast, but a chestnut tree was missing from the table. Mine, I see Sam still hasn't come down, asked the redhead. Maria, I'll go see if I see Sam has woken up, said the albino as she stood up and left, leaving Neil alone with Vile and Penemu. Penemu, and you're going to call me mine, said the cadre. Mine, the one who Penemu Okasan, I ask, is. Vile, you don't have to lie. Yesterday we heard your two arguing, said Danger with a smile. Mio just turns red with embarrassment. Penemu, my thanks for making Issei trust people, he said while putting on a smile. Mine, returned the gesture. Change of scene. Issei was lying down sleeping peacefully, and then he felt someone get into the bed, making him open his eyes where he was pressing something soft. Issei, it's soft, the brown-haired man weighed. Kaya Issei-sen is squeezing my butt, Fufufa, said a female voice. The brown-haired boy opened his eyes wide when he saw who the voice was and was surprised. Issei, Mom, Maria, what are you doing, he said nervously. Maria, it's time to get up, Issei-sen. Besides, we're going to be late to the academy, she said while giving him a kiss near the brown-haired boy's lip. Issei, well, thanks, you can go, he said while looking away. Maria simply left while the brown-haired boy sighed and then changed and went down to breakfast. Change of scene. When everyone had finished eating, the chestnut tree had gone down to go to the academy in the academy uniform, while the brown-haired boy is stunned while looking at Mine, who blushes at how the brown-haired boy looks at him. Mine must stop looking at me, she said, embarrassed while looking away. That's when Penemu arrives. Penemu, well, you're still here. You can go now, she said while they both nod and go to the academy. Hijirigasaka Academy. Already at the academy, the brown-haired and the redhead entered the academy. Already in his classroom, Issei was the first to introduce himself. Issei, hello, my name is Issei Tuju. I hope we get along and don't ask any questions, he said dryly. Mine, hello, my name is Mine Nazier. I hope we get along, he said while smiling. Time jump. Already at recess, the brown-haired boy came out alone, while Mine stayed in the classroom since she made crumbs. While the brown-haired boy was walking and thinking about what Azazel told him yesterday after training. Flask. You can see Issei transformed into Got's Raider, and Azazel alongside Vile, the Avenger, who in one of his hands had a modified sawed-off shotgun, and in his other hand had his chains coiled around his fist. At that, the Avenger shot Asia Azazel, who is dodging the attack while throwing two spears of light at him. Ghost uses his chains to break the attack, then he throws the chain at him where he grabs Azazel's foot. In a quick movement, Gotts lifts Azazel with his chains and smashes him to the ground, creating a mini crater. At that, Ghost receives a magical attack from behind, sending him crashing and releasing his chains. Damn, you are tough, boy, said a black-haired man who was covered in lightning. Ghost, you are annoying, Barrakiel, he said while shooting him with the shotgun. Barrakiel barely dodges the attack and Gotts takes advantage of it, creating a ball of fire in his hands and throwing it at the fallen man, who receives it fully. Boom! A Sejanero explosion in place where you can see how Barrakiel fell to the ground all wounded. At that, Azazel gets up with difficulty, When he managed to get up, he saw that he had a pipe in front of his eyes. Azazel, I surrender, said the fallen one. At that, Issei deactivates the transformation and returns to normal, while the shotgun remained the same. Azazel, what do you think to leave that like that, he said while pointing at the shotgun. Issei, I still don't know how I can return the things I modified to normal, said this one. Azazel sigh. This will be bucking difficult, he said, sitting down. The chestnut tree also sits next to Azazel. Azazel, Issei, I have to tell you something, he said while the brown-haired boy looked at him. Issei, what thing, Azazel? Asked the brown-haired boy. Azazel sigh. I've been investigating your sacred gears and found a lot of data. Look, he said while a magic circle appeared and in that a folder comes out. Issei takes the folder. Issei, is this it? Asked the brown-haired boy while Azazel nodded his head. At that point, the chestnut tree starts to read the note, where he is surprised because he can see an Avenger who was on top of a burning mammoth, then a soldier from the colonial era, then an old cowboy, or this one, and more. Issei, this is incredible, so there was more, said this one. Azazel, that's how it seems, Issei, said this one. That sacred gears that you have is one of the first ones, that I believe my father existed long before me. Nazca for sure, said this one. Issei just kept quiet. Azazel, but they all have something in common, said the fallen one. Issei, and what is it? Said the brown-haired boy. Azazel, that all of them kill or punish all. He who killed an innocent, no matter if he is a supernatural or a human, he punishes all equally. Said this. Issei just dryly thinking about it, and didn't tell anyone about the dream he had. Issei, the fury of God, as said the brown-haired boy while Azazel looks at him. End of flashback. The brown-haired boy was thinking that he was going to tell Azazel or Penemu about the dream he had a few days ago. He was so distracted that he was with someone. Issei, be you sorry for not noticing. I was thinking about things, said the brown-haired man who was helping the woman. Don't worry, he said while shaking her hand. It's also my fault for not watching where I was going, said a brunette woman. Issei, well, excuse me. I have to go to my classroom, he said while passing him the papers. It's okay, don't be late. What's your name, said this one while stopping the brown-haired boy. Issei, my name is Issei. Issei Tuja, he said politely. Nice to meet you, Issei. My name is Chisato Hasegawa, she said. Issei, likewise Hasegawa-sensei, he said while shaking his hand, and Chisato returns the gesture. And then the bell rings. Well, I'm leaving, Hasegawa-sensei, he said to go to his classroom, while Chisato looks at him as he walks away. Chisato, come down. Who would have thought there would be an Avenger here, said this while leaving again. After school, the chestnut was walking alone as he passed through the square. Since Mino was going to leave with some new friends, they invited her to go out and have fun. At that, the chestnut feels a familiar energy in the forest. Issei, this energy is equal to mine. Maybe it will be, thought the brown-haired boy while he started to run towards the forest. In the forest, the brown-haired man was running in place until he suddenly stops where he sees a black-haired man who was wearing a black jacket with spikes on the shoulders, spiked gloves, and black pants while he was sitting on a motorcycle. Wow, you finally arrived, said the man. The brown-haired man stares at the man sitting on the motorcycle. Issei, who are you? He asked while getting serious. I think you know the answer, right, said the man as he transforms into Ghost Raider. Issei will open his eyes and shot. We have to talk, you and I. New Avenger, said the man while he detransformed. Cap 7. Issei was looking seriously at the man in front of him, while the man looked at him calmly. So I want to talk to you, New Avenger, said the man seriously. Issei, first, what is your name? I asked. Would it be the brown-haired one? It's impolite to ask someone's name without you saying yours first, he said calmly. Issei, my name is Issei Tuja. Now your turn, said the brown-haired man seriously. Hey, much better. My name is Johnny Blaze Issei, he said calmly while shaking his hand. The chestnut returned the distrustful gesture. Johnny, calm down, boy. I won't do anything to you. Besides, I'm here to help you a little, he said calmly. Issei, how are you going to help me, Johnny, said this one. Johnny, I'm going to explain some things to you so you can control the power of the Avengers, said this seriously. Issei just aims at it. Johnny, first, in order for you to control the power of the Avenger, you have to meditate. But I see that you can control it a little. That's surprising, he said in amazement. Issei, thanks, I guess, replied the brown-haired boy. Johnny, also one more question. Why did you sign the contract, said this seriously. Issei sigh. The truth you want to know, he said seriously while Johnny just nods. Revenge, that is the answer, he said seriously. Johnny, revenge against who? Issei said this. Issei, that doesn't matter now. I have a question. Can you answer it for me, said this one. Johnny, okay, what is your question, said this one. Issei, who is Zarathos? I've been having strange dreams lately and they all have to do with Zarathos. Do you know why? Asked the brown-haired man. Johnny, wow, it seems that this boy is compatible with the Archangel. He will undoubtedly be strong in the future, he thought, answering your question. Yes, I know who Zarathos is. Why do you want to know, he said. Issei, can you tell me? This one asked. Johnny, I'm going to tell you a small part of the story of Zarathos, said this one. Zarathos was an angel, a spirit of justice. He was in charge of punishing the wicked. God sent him to protect humans, said this one, but he was tricked and captured by Lucifer, where he was taken to hell, where he was corrupted. But his mission to rescue the innocent was changed by a lust to punish the guilty. God captured him wherever Leda is. A part of his power wherever he is became the spirit of vengeance. And he was killed, making humans possess him. The fury of God in his hands, said Johnny. Johnny the Avenger developed several skills where the most lethal was the look of penance, said this. Issei, the look of penance? Said the brown-haired boy. Johnny, the look of penitence makes the Avenger punish the guilty, where he returns all the pain he caused to the innocent, and makes them see their losses, he said. Issei, so what I saw were all his crimes? Said this one. Johnny, that's good. The remains of a Rigolo alone, and boy, I tell you this, the Avenger never hurts the innocent, he said while he started the motorcycle and left the place. Issei just kept quiet and went back home. Change of scene. The brown-haired boy was walking through the streets of Tokyo thinking about everything Johnny told him, but suddenly he stops suddenly because he sees a group of people surrounding a brown-haired woman that Issei Seal knows. Issei Hasegawa-sensei thought the brown-haired boy surprised and ran towards the teacher. Change of scene. Chisato was in an alley being surrounded by 3 guys and was backing away. Chisato, I think I'm going to have to use my power, I think the chestnut. Before she can do anything, one of the men receives a powerful blow to the face, causing him to retreat. You better leave if you don't want me to beat you to death, said a brown-haired boy while his eyes began to shine. Chisato sees who came to help him, and is surprised to see Issei, who was facing the men, who he couldn't continue because Issei hit him in the face, breaking his nose, causing him to faint. The chestnut saw Ansa Asia, the other, who could barely react in time to another blow to the stomach followed by a blow to the nose. The last man looked at this in disbelief. Issei, I'll tell you one last time, go away, Osino, I'll kill you, he said, annoyed while his eyes shone brightly. The man runs away while his friends helped him with that. The brown-haired man turns around and sees Chisato, who was looking at him with a small blush. Issei Hasegawa-sensei, are you okay? Asked the brown-haired man. Chisato, yes, I'm fine, thanks to she couldn't finish because Issei interrupted her. Issei, call me Issei or Issei. I don't like being called by my last name, said the brown-haired boy. Chisato, okay, then call me Chisato Issei-kun, he said while putting on a smile. The chestnut returns the gesture. Issei, Chisato-san wants me to accompany him home, Issei asked. Chisato, no, don't worry, he said, I have a car, if you want you can accompany me to the car, said the brown-haired man, just nods. Change of scene. Issei had already helped Chisato, who gets into the car before looking at Issei. Chisato, thank you very much, Issei-kun, he said to give him a kiss on the cheeks and turn to the car. See you tomorrow at school, he said while winking at him and leaving behind a blushing brunette. Issei, go, you have your bird lips, said the brown-haired boy while he started to walk. Tujo house. Penemu was sitting while Mari and Mine were in their rooms. She was watching videos of Issei's training. Penemu, incredible. Issei surprises me a lot, she thought proudly. At that the door opens where Issei enters, who sees the violet-haired girl. Issei, I'm back, Penemu, said the brown-haired boy greeting the fallen. Penemu, welcome, Issei, she said sweetly. Where have you been? She asked. Issei, nowhere special. I just wanted to get to know the city a little bit, he said as he went to his room. A week later. This week Issei had managed to control most of the Ghost Raider's powers as well as learning a few tricks. His relationship with Maria had improved considerably, and at school he was still lonely. At the academy, Issei was lying in the infirmary sleeping while he was about to have a dream. In the dream, the chestnut tree was walking through the beautiful landscape until he saw Zarathos next to Lucifer. Lucifer and Zarathos, what do you think of humans? Asked the angel. Zarathos, they are interesting beings, but they have corruption inside them. They kill innocent people to fulfill their greed, said the angel. Lucifer, that's why I hate humans, he said as he spread his wings and left. Zarathos, Lucifer, what are you planning? He said as he walked away. Issei just stayed silent. At that point the place started to get dark until he woke up. Out of the dream, the chestnut tree had awakened. Now it seems that you have already woken up, said a female voice. Issei had recognized the voice of Era Chisato, who got on the bed and started crawling towards Asia. Issei, This one had gotten nervous. Issei Hiseiga didn't finish speaking because Chisato put his fingers on his lips. Chisato, I told you to call me Chisato Issei, she said amusedly while looking at the brown-haired girl. Issei, it's okay Chisato-sensei, he said somewhat nervously, can you get off? I have to go to class, he said nervously. Chisato steps aside as the chestnut rises. Chisato, Issei said, getting his attention, you are very cute when you sleep, said, about to give him a kiss, greatly surprising the brown-haired boy. This one turned away abruptly. Issei, and that's because it was, he said surprised. Chisato, a good gift, you can go, said this. Issei just left the place while Chisato sits on the bed. Chisato, wow. You've been through a lot, although I'm surprised that you're so compatible with Zarathos. What do you both have in common, thought the brunette, although his lips are very soft. Issei Hayato, you're someone interesting, thought the brunette as she sat on the bed. Chapter 8. Boom! An explosion erupted from the place as a blond man came out with a hammer in his hand while lightning struck him. At the other end you can see a burning skull rising from the neck. Both individuals looked directly at each other. Tell me what you are now, shouted the blonde. The guy who was wearing a jacket while his head was a skull looked at the blonde. Damn you, now you will pay, he shouted while raising his hammer up, and Cain thundered on the hammer. Take this for Ashgar, for Odin, he said while throwing the hammer at him. At that moment the skull takes the hammer in his hand, surprising the blonde. At that moment the hammer begins to cover itself with fire. I'll be back, said the guy who threw the hammer back at him. Boom! A huge explosion was heard again at the scene while the blonde was lying on the ground, wounded by his own weapon. At that point, the guy who threw the hammer started walking towards a car and then got in the car and left the place, leaving the blonde badly injured. What were you, said the blonde who fell unconscious to the ground. Change of scene. You can see a brunette riding a motorcycle while behind him there was a redhead who was hugging them. Any Issei, said the redhead. Issei, what's up my friend, he said while stopping at a traffic light. Mine, thanks for being there when I need you most, he said happily. Issei sigh. I will always be there for you. As for Maria, they are my sisters after all, he said while he started the motorcycle again and left. My hug to the strongest chestnut. Mine, thank you, he said while squeezing the hug more while Issei just smiles. The next day, Issei was at the academy until suddenly a girl with light blue hair entered. Professor, well guys, today we have a new transfer student, said the professor. Nice to meet you. My name is Yuki Nanaka, he said stoically. Issei hadn't paid attention since he had his headphones on. While the brown-haired boy was listening to the music, suddenly a shadow appeared in front of him where he saw Yuki. Issei, hey, I know you, Issei asked. Yuki, Issei, said this one. The chestnut tree stares at her for a while until Issei Nanaka said surprised. While he stood up the girl hugged him, surprising the whole class, and Yuki said surprised. You'll also like. Change of scene. This one was walking down the school hallway. While he was walking he felt like his vision was getting blurry, while the brown-haired man began to stagger. While standing there he saw a whole place destroyed and full of fire. At that moment the brown-haired man's body fell to the ground. PHAP. It was the chestnut's body that fell to the neck. Elsewhere, you can see a black car that was driving at a high speed. When the car passed a sign that said, well sold to Tokyo. Elsewhere, you can see a completely dark place. While a chestnut tree looked at all this curiously, he saw a place where there was apparently a man sitting in a chair. The chestnut tree hesitates a little until it decides to go after the man. The more he filled the place, the more tense it became until the chestnut was face to face. In that the man speaks. Protect the contract, said the man. Issei, wait, what did you say, said the brown-haired boy again. Protect the contract, don't let him have it. The man shouted, if he does it hell will run out on earth, don't let him have the contract. He shouted again while showing his face. The brown-haired man is surprised because half of the man's face was a burning skull while the other half was fine. Change of scene. The brown-haired boy was thinking about opening his eyes until he suddenly heard a voice. Come on, you're finally awake, said a female voice. At that the brown-haired boy raised his gaze and could see Chisato, who was looking at him with concern. Issei Chisato said this. Chisato, calm down, Issei, rest. You had a small collapse, he said. He is with you calmly. The brown-haired boy just nods while Chisato starts walking towards the door. Chisato, I'll be back in a minute, Issei, said the brunette who left the place. Issei, what the hell was that dream, thought the brown-haired boy. With Chisato, she was walking through the halls of the school while she kept thinking about a certain chestnut tree. Chisato, this is weird because now he collapsed, thought. I have never seen anything like this in my life. When I entered his mind to see his dream, I couldn't. Someone was in her. She couldn't continue thinking that energy can't be its ISCI. thought the brunette, who starts running back to the infirmary. With mine. The redhead was worried about the brown-haired boy, and she wasn't the only one since Yuki was too. Mine, I know what's happening to you, she thought worriedly. Yuki just looked at me. Yuki, so she is Wilberto's daughter, thought the light blue-haired girl. Why is Issei with her? Maybe he doesn't know anything about the supernatural, she thought while clenching her fists. Mio and Yuki were thinking until suddenly they both felt a familiar energy. Mine/Yuki Issei. They thought as they stood up and started running, surprising all the students and teachers. With Issei, he was holding his head while screaming, Issa! Ah! Issei shouted while releasing his power. Parara ya hhh! Shouted the brown-haired man, who fell to his knees. Boom! A gigantic explosion was present in the infirmary while a silhouette was shot into the sky. Plum! A creature fell to the ground whose face was on fire, who stood up in pesos and then looked in front of him. There was a man who also had his face like a skull was on fire, while behind him there was a car also on fire. Both subjects looked at each other face to face. Chapter 9. You can see a little brown-haired boy playing with two girls, one with light blue hair and the other with purple hair. The three children smiled amusedly as they ran. Issei Oni-cha, said the violet-haired girl. Issei, I'm going Kurimi, and Yuki, said the little brown-haired girl, to go together. The two girls smiled as they had fun with the brown-haired boy. Yuki narrates, since we were children, Issei was the person I loved the most. He always made us laugh. Me and my younger sister even called him Oni-chan, although whenever we hugged, he touched my butt, it didn't bother me. Until one day everything changed for me and my sister. Issei's family had changed radically. Issei looked more scared, he had a bandage on his face, but he never smiled at us. Until the day we went to the clan in Tokyo, it was possible. The years passed, I continued to miss Issei. I had become a hero. Issei always dreamed that he wanted to be a great hero. But one day on a mission we saw that man, a tall man on fire with a motorcycle behind him. Had heard stories of him many years before humanity was created, and seeing him in person was terrifying. Me and my sister and I attacked him, but it was useless, he was too strong. When I stopped, I could see a tall, hairy man in a trench coat looking at us disinterestedly. Then I saw him turn around to transform back while he stood still and looked at the motorcycle. I asked him who he was and he said, innocent. That left me confused, but he didn't even look at me. Then I saw him get on his motorcycle and drive off, leaving the road destroyed. Since the day of the attack many were astonished. We even heard the gossips. There can't be an Avenger here. They came out unharmed against the Avenger. Many more things I learned that they knew something about the subject. After that, the village elders told us the story of an angel called Zarathos, the angel of justice, the one who protects the innocent. It was said that this angel was sent by God to protect the innocent. It was said that he was very close to Lucifer, but there was something different about this archangel. He could see who was wrong, those who sinned, or stained their hands with the blood of the innocent. One day Lucifer captured him and dragged him to hell, where he suffered the worst torments, but he still had in his head the mission that his father gave him, to protect the innocent. God had rescued him, but too late his son had become someone different. He only thought about punishing anyone who dares to take an innocent person. Then God created him and gave him much of his power, destroying his body and then giving it to humans. Zarathos had remained inside each door. He would always punish those who hurt the innocent. Nothing can kill him, only God can. But there was something that caught my attention. It's that Zarathos doesn't choose his bearer. Each bearer has always had a miserable life or terrible luck. Mephisto had captured the Avenger where he was experimenting on him. In the end he couldn't corrupt him. Since then, whenever an Avenger appears, something must have happened, given his soul. It could be said, since hell was sealed, many managed to escape from there. But the one who signs the contract for something always does it to caress or have a happy life. But seeing Issei now as the new Avenger made me think, what happened in these years that I was not with him, and why is he now the new Avenger? Present. Issei was staring at the other Avenger. Both stared at each other, and neither of them took it seriously. At that the Avenger takes out his chains, while Issei begins to approach the Avenger. At that point both individuals started running towards each other. While both were running, the Avenger threw his chains at them. Issei avoids the attack and then both individuals clashed their fists against each other. When they both collided their fists they created a small crater. But both did not stay there. Issei would hit him in the abdomen while receiving a blow to the face, grabbing both of them to step back a little. They both look at each other for a second, and then jump at each other again. The Avenger encircles his chains on his right arm. Both individuals are about to exchange blows. Every blow that both Avengers delivered destroyed the place. At that, Issei gives him a Spartan-style kick and then runs towards the other Avenger to hit him in the face, breaking his jaw. The Avenger adjusts his jaw and then takes off the chains. In that, he throws the chain at him, although Issei dodges it. In that, a magic circle appears where Issei takes out some shotguns. The shotgun begins to change and then Issei points the gun at him. Wherever he is, he begins to shoot. The Avenger uses his chains to block Issei's shots while Issei was shooting at him. He begins to approach the Avenger. The Avenger was trying to attack, but he missed it impossible, but Issei kept shooting at him. At that, Issei was already circa enough to then grab the Avenger's chains. At that, Issei gives him a blow to the abdomen followed by a blow to the face, and 2 shots to the chest that made the Avenger fly away. With the girls, Chisato watched all this from a prudent distance while Mio and Yuki tried to maintain the barrier. Chisato, I think I'm going to have to interfere now, he thought as he started walking towards the girls. Mio was watching the fight in disbelief at Issei's display of power. Mine Oni-chan please, when she thought worriedly. Yuki, I see, hold on a little longer, he thought, he is wearing a small armor. At that moment, both girls noticed Chisato, who was walking quietly. Yuki/Mio Hasegawa-sensei, what are you doing? They asked in unison. Chisato, I'll explain later. Now we have to help Issei-kun, said the brunette as she enters the barrier. Back in the fight, Issei had shot out into the sky with chains entangling his feet. Where they pull her down. Issei hhhhhhhhh, shouted Issei, who fell on his neck, creating a bigger crater. At that, Issei gets up where the other Avenger throws his chain at him again. Issei takes his chain and then begins to forge against the other Avenger. Then Chestnut grabs the chain and with a quick movement he lifts it up to the sky, causing another Avenger to scream and then fall on his back to the ground. Issei takes his modified shotgun and then shoots him, but the Avenger dodges it and gets up where he takes out 2 burning knives. At that point, both individuals launched themselves at each other. While one shot, the other dodged the shots. In that, both individuals were face to face. The Avenger had a knife at Issei's throat, while Issei had the shotgun at his head. The two stared at each other until the other Avenger flew off, and then crashed near the car. This ends now, said a female voice. Issei could recognize the voice. Issei Hasegawa was the only thing Issei said, still transformed, while he was trying to have control of himself. At that, the Avenger had risen from the sky to then see the brown-haired woman next to Issei. He grabs his chains where he joins them with the knives. Roar! Fueled the roar of the Avenger, who starts walking Asia Chisato and Issei. Issei points his gun at him. Chisato, I said enough, shouted the brunette, while releasing her power, surprising Issei and stopping the Avenger. The Avenger stares at her for a moment, then wraps his chains around her torso and turns her around, then gets into the car. And look at Issei one last time. Protect the contract was the only thing he said before leaving with the car. At that, Issei detransforms and before he falls, Chisato burns Issei. Chisato, everything is over, Issei, you can rest now, she said sweetly while Issei started to close his eyes. Elsewhere, a brown-skinned albino could be seen looking from a distance. So it was true, there was more than one Avenger. I think Salgia-sama will be interested in this, said the albino, and then left the place. Chapter 10. Yuki was walking thinking about everything that had happened until now when he found out that Issei had become the new Avenger. While walking, he sees a purple-haired girl wearing armor. We have to talk, sister, said the girl seriously. Change of scene. You can see a black car while there was a man with dark skin while he had a blonde lock of hair. At that moment, a motorcycle appears next to the man. Don't you think you're too far gone, Robin? Said the red-haired guy. Robin, maybe I went a little too far with the boy, but I never expected that that woman would be a member of the Delos Heroes clan and a goddess in that place, he said seriously. Wow, I think that was my mistake, said the black-haired man. Robin, but it seems that goddess is interested in the boy, he said seriously. Hey, at least we know he'll be in good hands, he said as he left on the motorcycle. Robin just stared at the stars and then got in the car and left the place. Change of scene. The brown-haired boy was getting out of bed while putting his hands on his head. Issei, what the hell happened yesterday, said the brown-haired boy until he started to remember the fight. I see, so it was a mess, said this one. In that, it is realized that he has bandages all over his torso and arms. But when he could look closely, he was in his room at home. Issei, how did I get here? Thought. At that, the door showing a red-haired girl entered Issei's room. Mine Issei, he shouted, and then went and hugged Issei. This corresponds to the hug in which two more girls enter. They were Maria and Chisato. Maria/Chisato Issei Sam/Issei-kun, they said in unison. At that, Maria also goes to hug Issei. At that, the two girls separate while crying. In that, Chisato also hugs Issei. Change of scene. Issei was in the dining room with Maria, Chisato, and mine. All of them looked at the brown-haired man, who was sitting there processing everything they told him. Issei, so the school will be closed for 2 days, said Issei. Chisato, that's right, Issei-kun, he answered. Mine Issei, he said, calling the attention of the brown-haired man, can I ask you who was the subject against whom you fought, and why he told you to protect the contract he said he is on it? Maria and mine look with a certain mind at the brown-haired man. Issei-sigh. I don't even know who that guy was, he answered, and besides the contract. Lately I've been having very strange dreams about Zarathos, he said. Maria, dreams? What kind of dreams, Issei-san? Asked the succubus. Issei, the truth is that the dreams I have about Zarathos are like a puzzle that is being put together in my head, he answered, not to mention that I feel like I've already lived it, he said. Mine, and how is what you have experienced, Issei-kun, she said. Before Issei could answer, Chisato stepped forward. Chisato, what Issei-kun means is that it seems that he already experienced it firsthand. Or am I wrong? Issei said this while drinking a cup of coffee that Maria brought him. Issei, yes, but I have a question for you, Chisato said this one. Chisato, go ahead, he replied, but he already had an idea of what he would ask. Issei, what are you? You are not a demon or a fallen angel, and I doubt you are an angel, he said seriously. Chisato-sigh. I am a goddess who far surpassed the Mao and also the cadres together, and we are venerated by the Delos Heroes clan where your friend Yuki Issei belongs, said the brunette seriously. Both Mio and Maria were surprised by such information, as was Issei. Issei, can I ask what you are doing here? He said seriously. Suddenly the whole place started to get tense. The pressure was felt. Chisato, calm down, Issei. I'm not your enemy. Besides, I'm very interested in you, she answered calmly. That made the tension decrease. Maria, and can I ask why you are in the human world instead of being with the other gods, said the succubus now. Chisato, I only came to the human world to have a quiet life, she answered, but in the end I met Issei, and well, now I'm here, she said seriously. Sigh. For a moment I thought it would be an enemy, said this. Chisato just has a smile. The next day, Issei, along with me and Maria, were at the mall buying clothes. Both girls were having fun, while the brunette walked behind her with a smile. While they were having fun, in the distance you could see a group of boys, and it wasn't just them, but also in another part you could see two people. One was a woman, the other looked like a burly man. I'm bored of this, said the man. You know we have orders to observe, said the female voice. Hell, whatever, I want to see how strong that boy is, he said as he disappeared into the shadows. Sigh. That's why I like to work alone, said the female voice. With Issei. This one was walking through the place next to me and Maria. While they were walking, a barrier was activated. Mine/Maria, a barrier, they said in unison. Issei just looked everywhere. At that moment, a figure appears where he is subject and throws a fireball directly at the girls. Issei starts to run until he gets in front of the attack, receiving it full. Mio/Maria, Issei/Sen, they shouted. Ha ha ha, really, he is the Avenger, he is not great. He could not finish speaking since he was surrounded by chains. Where did the chains come from, he said. At that, everyone starts to hear footsteps. When everyone looks at where the smoke is, they can see Issei transformed into the Avenger, but he starts walking towards it. Don't think you're such a big deal. Damn it, Asia, Issei shouted angrily as she ran. When he was about to hit Issei, he stopped abruptly, and the whole floor started to freeze. The subject looked at all this astonished, but before anything else happened he felt cold in his abdomen. Kuoh was the only thing he said before he froze and disappeared. In that, 4 figures surrounded Issei. One was a blonde boy who had a spear, the other a brown-haired boy, the other was a violet-haired girl well known to Issei. Finally, there was Yuki, who looked at Issei with sadness. Stay still, demon, said the blonde. Issei just looks at him, and then regrets walking like that, the blonde. Everyone is on guard until they see Issei detransform. Issei, who are those of you, he ordered seriously while facing the blonde. Cap 11. Issei, who are you? Ordered the brown-haired boy. We are from the Delos clan, avenging heroes. Note, I don't remember the names of the boys except Kurumi and Yuki. If anyone knows, can you please tell me, and thank you. End of note. Issei, and he could ask what a member of the Delos Heroes clan is doing here, said Issei while his body was beginning to smoke. Then another boy appears who had his eyes closed and was walking calmly. Calm down, Avenger, we only came to serve, he said calmly. Issei just looked at the boy seriously. Listen, we only came to exterminate my Nature since she was set as the target to eliminate, he said seriously. Issei, and you think I'm going to let you do that, he said seriously. No, but listen to this, how about we fight, he said seriously. In a few days we will send you a message where the location of the fight will be. Now let's go, he ordered. Why? Said the blonde. We just came to observe. Since now there is more than one Avenger, we have to be more careful, he said while destroying the barrier. Mine incredible, he destroyed the barrier with a single attack, she said in amazement. Well, see you, sayonara, he said, disappearing from the place. Issei-Sai, this will be very annoying, he said seriously. Maria, this is Issei, Sam said lowly. Issei, what's up, Maria, he said. Maria, there's a way to make my Sama get stronger in a few days, she said. Mouse/Issei said in unison. In Kuoh, two chestnuts could be seen walking through the park. Have you heard anything about your brother Jessica? Said the brunette with pigtails. Jessica no Murayama, she said while she was about to shed tears. Murayama, I see, he said somewhat sadly. Jessica, if only she were a good sister, all this wouldn't have happened, she said. I see. Issei was at home while he was in a magic circle just like me. Issei, let's see if I understand. You're saying that we have to make a master and servant pact to know where each of us was and also that we will become stronger, he said incredulously. Maria, that's right, Issei-san, I answer. At that the magic circle began to shine where a circle appeared in Issei's hand. Issei, I already appreciate this, and now what is there to do, said this one. Maria, my good Sama has to kiss Issei-san's hand to sign the pact, she said. Mind that, no, he said denying. At that the glow of Issei's hand began to flicker. Issei, oh, what's going on, said this one. Mine, Kya, she moaned while her cheeks blushed. Maria, or not, Issei-san has to make sure that my Sama is obedient, said this. Issei, wait, you said there's no other way, said the brown-haired boy. Maria, no, Issei-san has to make sure that my Sama is submissive, she said. Mine, Maria said this. Issei, sorry for this of mine, he said as he approached me. Mine, Oni-chan, he said. Lemon skipped. Change of scene. You can see several dead bodies as a man walks through all the corpses. There will be a door where further ahead there was a dangerous guy sitting. I think it's time for you to intervene before it gets any louder, said a male voice. At that the most handsome figure raises his gaze to see the man. Chapter 12. There were people sitting in a bar when a hairy man enters and walks calmly while several people look at him. Then the man sits on a chair. Bartender, he said calmly. At that moment, a fat man, apparently in his 40s, appeared, looking at the black-haired man. Bartender, what do you want, he asked. I just want a beer, he said calmly. The bartender only gives him a bottle of beer, and then goes to serve more people. At that moment a person sits next to the black-haired man. Can I know what a guy like you is doing in this place, said the guy. He just came to have a beer, he said. Hey, someone like you is not welcome here. You know that, said the guy. The black-haired man didn't respond and continued drinking calmly while everyone in the place looked at him. Hey, I'm talking to you, said the guy. Do you know something, answered the haired guy. The reason why I also came here is for something else in general, answered the haired guy. That was the only thing he could say since the dangerous guy took out a gun and shot him in the head, killing him instantly. Everyone in the bar was surprised by what the guy just did. And you know the best part is that they pay me for this, said the black-haired man who took out another gun. At that point, the dangerous guy starts shooting at the guys who barely managed to dodge him. At that point, all the men and the bartender start to transform into horrible beings. It's strange to see demons outside of the real hell, said the black-haired man. At that the black-haired man's body starts to transform into a skeleton. While he is standing there he starts to release fire. But unlike the others, this one he released was blue. All the masters stood still. Impossible, you are. Bang! I can't continue speaking because the Avenger had shot the master in the head, killing him instantly. The others rushed to kill the new Avenger who appeared. At that the Avenger shot the first beast in the leg, tearing it off in the process, then dodging a blow from the other creature. At that point the Avenger takes out some chains and then throws them at the master. At that point the chains return to the master who was trying to free himself. At that moment the Avenger moves the chains with a quick movement, causing the master's body to end up in snakes. The last monster who lost his leg looked in horror at the Avenger who in slow steps started to approach him. At that moment the Avenger was in front of him, while pointing his modified weapon at him. Mercy, said the teacher. Avenger, I'm sorry, I have no mercy, was what the Avenger said. Bang! The Avenger's shot had completely disintegrated Maestro. After that he unshapes himself to sit back at the bar for another beer. At that the door opens, showing a dark-skinned man with an eye patch. The man sits next to the hairy guy who was calmly drinking. What do you want now, Nick? Said the haired boy calmly. Nick, I see you still haven't changed, Sak, he said. Sak goes straight to the point. That's what S.H.I.E.L.D. wants now, said this one. At that Nick gives a notebook to the redhead, who opens it, and he starts reading it. Sak, I see, said this one, but what does it have to do with me, he answered. Nick, I want you to be in the Avengers Initiative, he said seriously. Change of scene. You can see Issei at school walking calmly while still remembering what happened yesterday. Issei, shit, I still can't forget that, the brown-haired man mentally shouted while his cheeks turned red, although her tits were soft, he thought. While walking through the school hallways he feels someone running him off the path. Issei, but what the hell, said this one to turn around and see Yuki, said this one. Yuki, Issei said he was approaching. I want you to stop this fight, he said seriously. Issei, just get serious. Issei, no Yuki. I won't leave anyone I care about. Besides, they are my new family. I owe them, said the brown-haired man seriously. Yuki, Issei, he said in a low voice, I see if that is your decision. In coughs he turns around. We will be enemies on the bridge tomorrow at 5 in the afternoon, he said, and then leaves. Issei, Yuki said this. Change of scene. Chisato was in the infirmary thinking about all the events that were happening until now. Chisato, I also contracted that another Avenger appears in the area that is happening. She thought whatever is happening, this is because Issei has a strong connection with Zarathos, she thought while looking out the window, but even so his life can never be peaceful, but even so I will help you overcome your past, she thought. At that the door of the infirmary opened, showing Issei walking towards Asia Chisato, who looked at him curiously. Issei, I see you're here, Chisato, he said while sitting next to the chestnut. Chisato, Issei was the only thing he said. Issei, Chisato, I want to ask you a favor, he said seriously. Chisato, and what kind of favor would that be, said the brunette seriously. Change of scene. Nick and Sak could be seen sitting on a bench in a park. Sak saw the Avengers Initiative but they no longer had Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Widow and Hawkeye, he said calmly. Nick, I see that you don't know us, said this one. The Avengers ended after Thanos. Tony died. Thor had his son Huyamo Thor Jr. Worse, this one is red-haired. The captain used the time gem to make the life he never had, and he's already retired. Black Widow is dead and Hawkeye is retired as well as Banner, he said seriously. Sak, I see, said this one. Nick, I have to prepare the new Avengers who will be among the candidates. You are there. Spider-Man Venom is there too. But there are still members missing, he said seriously. Sak, sigh, he has it really tough, he laughed. Change of scene. Issei was walking next to me and Maria to the bridge where they would face each other. Mine, are you sure they will come, Issei, he said. Issei, I'm sure they'll be waiting for us, said the brown-haired boy seriously. In that, the three of them arrive at the bridge where they see the group, and the one with the spear looks at Issei with a touch of hatred. I see you've finally arrived, said calmly a brown-haired man with narrowed eyes. Stop joking, Shiba, and let's think about this once and for all, said the blonde. Shiba calmed down. Takashi, this will be very fun, said the brown-haired boy. At that the blonde puts the spear in the middle where a large wave is present where all the people of the place disappeared as well as Shiba. Takashi, well, I think we can start weighing now, he said seriously. Issei started walking while his body was turning into fire. His footsteps sounded in place. Everyone was silent. The blonde looked at this. He would have the opportunity to fix his iron in the past. Takashi, what's going on? Do you hate me? Why do I feel so much hatred towards me, said the blonde. Issei, already in his Avenger form, spoke. Issei, of course not, because I would feel hurt towards someone who is weaker than me. It only makes me feel sorry. It was the only thing Issei said as he faced the blonde. Cap 13. Issei, already in his Ghost Raider form, looked seriously at the blonde. Whoever was looking at him seriously too. The whole atmosphere became heavy. Maria and I were on guard, as was Kurumi, except for Yuki. At that Issei takes out his chains and throws Asia Yuki at him. But the attack did not arrive since Kurumi had launched a magical attack sending Issei flying. At that Takashi throws himself at Asia, Mio and Maria with his spear in hand. Maria also throws herself straight, while mine launched several fire magic attacks. Kurumi, Salio, Volando, Asia, Issei. Takashi, come on, Bayako, he said while throwing several stabs at Asia Maria. Maria barely dodges the attacks and then appears in front of the blonde Supreme, telling him, Takashi, how? Was the only thing the blonde could say. At that moment, Maria gives him a tremendous punch in the abdomen, sending Rubio flying. I see. This one was coming out of the rubble, while he was still in his Avenger form. At that, Kurumi comes down in front of him, looking seriously at Issei. Kurumi, Issei has spent some time, she said seriously. Issei, I'm glad to see you well, Kurumi, he said while he turned the chains on his arm. At that, Kurumi launches another magical attack at Issei while he takes out his sawed-off shotgun. Bang! Bang! Issei shot the first fence twice, completely destroying Kurumi's magical attack, surprising her. At that, Kurumi barely dodges the other bullet. With Maria and Mine, Maria was attacking with everything she had, trying to hit Takashi. At that, Takashi dodges another blow from Maria where he is and gives Maria a Spartan-style kick. At that moment, Maria was sent flying and she appeared behind Takashi, which surprised him. Takashi, how did I not feel it, he thought while looking at Mine. Mine, take this, he said while throwing a powerful attack of electricity where a colossal dragon was formed. Takashi, shit, he said while receiving the full attack. Boom! I see. He was shooting with his sawed-off shotgun at Kurumi, who could barely defend herself with magical attacks. At that, Issei throws the chains at Kurumi, who couldn't dodge, and the chains began to entangle the girl's entire body, who could only get out a moan of pain. Issei, give up, Kurumi said. Issei, who detransformed you, lost, he said seriously. In that, the chestnut receives a cut on the chest. Issei, Yuki said as he fell to the ground. In that, Issei's chains disengaged Kurumi, who was surprised by what her sister did. Kurumi's sister, she said surprised. Elsewhere, Sak could be seen driving his motorcycle. While doing so, a portal will open where he enters. After that, Sak appeared in another place. He looked around and then left the motorcycle to walk around the place. As I walked further, I saw a bearded blonde man next to a red-haired young man who had a gigantic hammer on his back. Sak, it seems that your son also likes hammers, he thought. What do you want, mortal? Was what the redhead said. Sak, hello Thor, I came to talk about something important, he said seriously to the redhead. At that, the blonde man speaks. What's important since Nick called me, said the blonde. Sak, I want your junior son to join the new Avengers, he said calmly. At that moment, the whole atmosphere became heavy because the redhead looked serious, just like the blonde. Sak, I think it will be the hard way, no, he said with a smile. At that point, the atmosphere stopped being heavy. I see, tell Nick that this is my son's decision. I'm leaving, he said while leaving in a magic circle. In Sak, he stares at the redhead. With Maria and Mine, they were having difficulty stopping all the thrusts of the blonde, who was attacking with all his strength. In that, the blonde managed to hit Maria, who flew away. Mine, Maria! I shout worriedly. Takashi, don't give up! Shouted the blonde, who was about to hit the redhead. Clank! It was heard in the place, in that of Mine, and Takashi is surprised at who was the one who blocked his attack. Takashi/Mine, Yuki/Nanaka, they said surprised. Yuki, who had blocked Takashi's attack. Takashi, Yuki, what are you doing, he said annoyed. Yuki, I'm just doing the right thing, he said seriously. I see. This one was lying down while having a rather peculiar dream. In the dream, shouting, cries, shouting. Issei was listening to all of that. His space was black, he couldn't see anything. In that, his entire body was about to be consumed by fire. But unlike the normal one, this one was black. Issei is surprised until he suddenly sees a glow that blinds Issei. Then Issei could see that the brightness was getting clearer and clearer, forming a human shape. In that, the figure takes out two wings. That surprised Issei, who looked in disbelief at that. The dark flames went out while Issei looked at the figure. Issei, who are you, was Issei's question. At that, the whole place starts to shine. Out of Issei's dream, Kurumi had Issei on her lap. While the wound continued to bleed, a blue fire began to cover the wound, surprising the girl. At that point, the chestnut's wounds began to heal without leaving any trace, just as Kurumi was surrounded by blue fire, surprising the girl. A few minutes passed where the fire subsided and Issei and Kurumi's wounds stopped, surprising the girl. Kurumi, incredible, not only her wounds healed but mine too, she thought surprised. At that, Issei will open his eyes, surprising Kurumi. Issei, Kurumi was the only thing Issei said as he stood up. Kurumi, I see, Nai said. Issei, Kurumi, where before finishing speaking Mine appeared. Mine, Issei-kun said while he had seen the brown-haired boy. This one sees me well and sees that I was all scared and that all a blue fire covers me, surprising her, but she sees that I didn't feel pain. Issei, ready now, you're better, said this one. Mine, how did you do it, Issei, she said surprised while looking at his body, and saw that he had no wounds. At that, Issei starts walking. Kurumi, where are you going, Issei and I, she said. Issei, I'll go save Yuki and Maria, he said while transforming into the Avenger. Mine/Kurumi, I see, they said in unison. At that, Issei's fire starts to turn blue, while he only turns his head a little. Issei, I will return, he said while unfolding some wings, but unlike the wings of angels and demons, these are made of bones, while blue fire surrounded him. At that, Issei shoots out towards the sky, grabbing a great stream of power. Kanyuki. This one was blocking all the thrusts that Takashi threw at him. At that moment, Maria appears next to her, surprising the blonde, who receives a powerful blow to the face, sending him flying. Both women stared at each other, and then nodded. Takashi came out with the spear in the man. While his clothes were all dirty. Takashi TKS, they are annoying, I think it's time, he said while pointing his spear towards the horrible. But when it was going to attack something, it crashed into place, creating a huge explosion instead. Takashi, as Maria and Yuki looked where there was a crater, in that both can see a blue glow walking towards them. At that, Issei came out transformed while looking around and then walking and standing in front of Yuki and Maria. Takashi looked seriously at Issei. While he just stood still, Issei spread his wings, surprising everyone present. Issei's wings surprised the blonde and the girls. At that, Issei takes out his modified sawed-off shotgun, surprising Takashi. Issei slash? You're making me angry, said Issei, who just pulled the trigger. Bang! Issei had shot at Takashi, who couldn't react in time and received the full shot. In that, Takashi falls to the ground badly injured, where Issei detransforms but still has his wings. At that, he remains still while his eyes shine blue. After that, the barrier breaks where Issei kept his wings, and Shiba appears, who is walking calmly, and takes Takashi's body. At that moment, Mino and Kurumi arrive. Shiba, well, we're done with this. Let's go, Kurumi and Yuki. The mission was cancelled, he said calmly. Both girls are surprised, as is Issei. Mine, hey, why does he have to go with Taigo Nanaka, she said seriously. Shiba, I think it's better this way, we just came to observe. Besides, nobody wants to fight a battle in front of civilians, he said while opening his eyes. His eyes were red like blood itself, which surprised Issei, who didn't care much, just like Maria and I. But before Issei says anything, Yuki starts walking towards them. Yuki, calm down, I'll be fine, she said calmly. Shiba, okay, let's go. See you later, Avenger, he said calmly. Issei just looks at him annoyed while his eyes shine in intense blue. At that point, the boys disappear from my place and approach little by little, just like Maria. Mine, Issei-kun, she said worriedly. Maria, Issei-san said the same. At that, Issei turns around where his eyes stopped shining. Issei-sai, I'm fine, Maria, and mine, he said while putting on a smile. Change of scene. In the distance, you could see a beautiful brunette woman with white hair. As she looked towards where they were, it seems the battle is over, he said seriously. It's time to put the plan to the test, he said as he disappeared. Chapter 14. It had been a few weeks since Issei, along with mine and Maria, had fought against the Delos Heroes clan. In that week, Issei had tried to reactivate his Blue Ghost Raider form, which was impossible. But at least he had managed to maintain control of his transformation. Present, Issei could be seen in his classroom looking bored at the teacher who was explaining. Issei, Yuki didn't come again today, thought the brown-haired man looking at a basic seat. At that moment, the bell rings where everyone goes out to recess. While Mio looked worriedly at Issei. Mine, Issei, the girl thought worriedly. Change of scene. Sak can be seen walking through the streets of New York, walking calmly until he suddenly sees a brown-haired boy who was sitting drinking a bottle of whiskey. At that, Sak sighs where he sits next to the boy. The boy looks at him curiously wherever he is. He simply ignores where he sees a beautiful blonde waitress coming. At that, the boy winks at the waitress while she smiles at him. Sak, wow, you have good taste, goat, he said carefree. Thanks, I guess, said this one. Sak, you're welcome, are you? Asked the haired guy. So my name is Leo. A pleasure, said the dark brown. Sak, nice to meet you. My name is Sak, he said while shaking his hand with Issei. This one was in the infirmary talking with Chisato about some important issues. Chisato, so you still haven't been able to use your blue form, she said calmly. Issei, that's right, but because you say blue I'm not a scion, he said. Chisato, sorry. It's just that the other day I was watching Dragon Ball and I just saw that Goku used his blue form, that's why, he explained. Issei-sai. Okay, that's weird that you watch anime, he said. Leave that aside. You know what caused me to turn blue, he said. Chisato, the truth is no, Issei and I have never seen another Avenger transform into blue. It is the first time I have seen one, he said simply. Issei, okay, thanks Chisato, he said while standing up. He goes and leaves. Chisato, hey Issei, said the brown-haired boy. Turns around, be more careful if, he said. Issei just nods as he leaves the infirmary. Chisato-sai. It seems that Issei has already mastered 10% of the power. It's interesting, he said. In Kuoh, you could see Issei's brothers with his parents. Issei's mother had a sad face, unlike his father, who was calm, as if he didn't care that Issei was missing. With Issei, classes had finished. He was walking while he had his headphones on. At that, Issei is pulled back, which surprised the brown-haired boy. Issei, what the buck, said this one. Then he feels like someone is hugging him when he looks down and sees a light blue hair. Issei Yuki, he said, surprised. Change of scene. Sak was walking calmly with Leo through the streets of New York. Sak, and you decide whether to join the Avengers or not, he asked. Leo, the truth is it would be fun, so yes, I accept, but Eris with Deadpool, he said. Sak, I think he's with the X-Men, so for now he's ruled out, he answered. Leo, I see, he said. Well, see you, he said as he left. The next day, Issei and Yuki made the master and slave pact where both of you had sexual relations. Issei, I still can't believe I had sex with Yuki, thought the brown-haired boy, but I admit she has a nice ass, he thought. While Iva was walking calmly behind him, Mine came along with Maria and Yuki. Mine, because I feel this way about what Issei did, he said while bringing his hand to his chest. Could it be that I don't know? No, it can't be that I don't like him. Or yes, he thought while looking at Issei's back. At the academy, classes would go on normally. As soon as they exit, Mayuki, Maria, and Issei Ivan would walk together straight towards their house. At that point, a barrier would be activated, where everyone would be on guard. Issei, a trap, but I didn't feel anything, he thought while looking at the place. In that mind next to Maria, a magic circle appears below them, making Issei and Yuki see them. Issei/Yuki, mine/Naruz. They shouted, Mine, Issei, Yuki. He shouted as he disappeared. At that, Issei receives a blow that sends him flying, and Yuki Seda turns around where he barely manages to block it with his sword. Yuki, he's fast, he thought, to block another attack from the individual. At that, Issei comes out of the rubble, while his whole body starts to catch fire. Roar! It was the roar of Issei, who ran towards the individual. He turned around where he received a powerful blow to the abdomen. At that, Issei started walking slowly towards the individual, who could barely stand up. Shit, seriously, you're someone interesting, Avenger, said the guy who stood up and went to clean the dust. At that, Issei stops and looks at the subject. My boss was right, Ghost Avenger. It would be better if he killed you here and now so you don't interfere with his plans, said the guy. At that, Issei lifts his paw and then steps on the neck where the whole ground begins to crack while fire began to come out of the cracks. All the cracks, Ivan direct to the subject, who looked at this attentively, and that from the cracks several chains came out, surprising the subject and Yuki. The subject spread his wings and then began to fly into the sky. Issei, I'm not done yet, said Issei. At that point the chain shot up into the sky, causing the guy to dodge the attacks. At that point a chain appeared behind him. That surprised the subject, who again barely dodged the attack. He kept dodging several attacks until Issei stopped. Ha, you see, Avenger, not even your chains could break me. They would break yours, he said arrogantly. Issei just stares at him until he speaks. Issei, never, I pointed you, said Issei. At that point the guy looks around the place when he realizes that all the chains had him cornered. It can't be that a cage, he said in shock. At that the chains caught fire while the cage was getting smaller and smaller. Hey, interesting, so you already had that idea of catching me, huh, he said. Issei, tell me, where is mine, said Issei, already normal. Do you think I'll tell you, he said. Issei, bad answer this, said Issei, back transformed. In that the Issei takes the chains where the Asia Ariaba spear is and then speaks. Issei, go back to hell, said this one while throwing the subject down. In that, a portal will open on the ground where the subject falls. At that, Issei detransforms and then looks at Yuki, who was also looking at him. Issei, it's time to act. Chapter 15. Issei and Yuki were on the roof of the academy. Issei, shit was the only thing, the boy said. Yuki, and if you tried to search for them by the master and slave mark, I suggest. Issei did exactly what he said, but he couldn't control it. Issei, I can't feel it. It's like I'm covered by a force field, said the brown-haired boy. Yuki, do you have an idea, I asked. Issei sigh. I think so, was the only thing he said. Change of scene. Sak could be seen standing in front of a brown-haired man who had a katana on his waist. Sak, so you are the bearer of the sword Yamato, he said, the black-haired man. The brown-haired man didn't respond and simply unsheathed his katana. Sak sigh, I see. I think we have to do it the wrong way. He said while turning into a blue ghost raider. At that, Sak takes out his chains. Sak, here we go, was the only thing he said as he launched himself at the brown-haired boy, who simply waited for him. The next day, Issei was taking his chains off his motorcycle and then slashing it on his torso while taking out his sawed-off shotgun. Issei, sigh. Well, here we go, was the only thing he said while he started to go up the stairs. With mine, who was fainted while she was crucified. That's when he starts to open his eyes and then sees the whole environment. realizing that he was not in his place. Mine, where am I asked, confused. In that he is standing to listen past. When he looks at the place, he could see an adult man who had a white beard and armor, and behind him came a brunette woman with white hair. Mine, Zalgia, said this one. Zalgia, wow, you've woken up, prodigy girl, said this one. Mine, what do you want, Zalgia, he said with hatred in his voice. Zalgia, hee. Wow, you look just like your father, you inherited the same character as him. But not even Mephisto can save you, although I doubt that old man cares about you, said this one while he was trying to grope mine. Zalgia, you have a beautiful body, girl. I had fun with you before stealing your power to become king of hell, said this one. At that, Zalgia moves away from me to start walking and to face the albino. Zalgia, keep an eye on her and prevent her from escaping, she said as she left the place. Zets, yes, Zalgia-sama, he answered with respect. With Issei. He was driving his motorcycle while behind him was Yuki hugging Issei by the waist. At that, Issei stops his motorcycle. Issei, we're fine here, he said as he got off the motorcycle. You already know the plan, right, he asked. Yuki just nods. Issei, well, I hope this works. Then Issei transforms into the Avenger. In that, Issei, already transformed, takes his chains from his torso and then in wait to spin the chains, thus creating a portal. At that, Issei enters the portal so that later the portal closes and leaves Yuki. Yuki dash, sigh. Okay, now how do you ride a motorcycle, she said embarrassed, and then looked at the motorcycle. That's it, get on the bike. Yuki, okay, he said, I think this is the accelerator, he said while taking the handlebar. Come on, Yuki, it doesn't have to be that difficult. Or yes, and that Yuki unintentionally pressed the accelerator, making the motorcycle start moving. While Yuki was screaming, he tried to stop the motorcycle. With Issei. In this, you can see how a portal is formed in a kind of room where Issei comes out in his Avenger form. At that, Issei deactivates his Avenger form and then wraps his chains around his torso. Issei, so this is the place where mine is, he said while looking at the place. At that, Issei starts walking all over the place. Flask. Issei could be seen walking towards the infirmary where Chisato is located. At that moment, Issei enters the infirmary where Chisato was sitting drinking coffee. Issei, Chisato, I need your help, he said seriously. Chisato, I know, Issei. I managed to feel it too, she said seriously. At that, Issei sits in front of the chestnut. Issei, do you know a method to find mine, he said seriously. Chisato, there is a way to do it, Issei, she said seriously. You have to use your power of the Avenger to be able to open a portal where it is that will take you to where mine is, she said seriously. Issei, and how do I use it, he answered. Chisato, you have to focus on me only. While I have your power activated, use the chains and then make them spin, and there a portal to your destiny will be created, he said. Issei, that all seems easy, he answered. Chisato, you said it apparently, but be careful, Issei, sometimes the portal tends to fail layers, it takes you to hell, she said seriously. End of flash drive. Issei, I see that I was right, that sometimes the portal is tempting to fail, but oh well, he thought while he was going up the stairs. In that, Issei, by pure instinct, dodges a blow from a person. Issei, it seems the stealth plan failed, he said while taking a few steps back. At that moment, several demons appeared and surrounded the chestnut tree. Issei, well, said Issei, who was beginning to transform. I'm going to send them back to hell, said Issei, already transformed. At that, Issei takes out his chains and then throws a slash towards the demons who dodged the attack. At that, 4 demons launched themselves at Issei. Whoever took out his sawed-off shotgun and transformed it into a heavy weapon to fire. Bang, 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 bang. How many shots, ISO, Issei, making the demons fall dead to the ground while they disappeared in witches. Roar! Few roar of Issei, who sen lanso Asia the demons. With mine, who was awake, was watching Zets, who was sitting quietly. At that moment, the doors suddenly open and a guard enters. Zets-sama, we are under attack, said the guard. Zets, who is attacking us, she ordered seriously. It's some kind of skeleton on fire. Ma'am, he said. In that of mine there is only a smile. Mine, Issei, he thought happily. Zets, I sent our guest to the woman, she ordered seriously. The guard just nods while Saber runs. Zets, I wouldn't be happy if I were you, she said seriously. Mine, why, I asked. Zets, not even the Avenger will be able to save you from Zalgia-sama, she said seriously. With Issei. Issei, who was wearing his chains while firing his sawed-off shotgun, killing several demons. At that, Issei with his chains is on his feet to turn, killing a large number of demons. In that, the last ones left, which were in total 3. Mercy, they said. Issei, I'm sorry, I have no mercy, said Issei. In that, Issei with his chains catches a demon, and then the demon starts to set fire. At that moment, some demons try to run but are shot in the head, piercing him with blood. The last remaining demon falls to his knees, while he stands and cries. In that, Issei keeps his chains wherever he is and thinks about walking towards the demon, where Issei grabs him by the neck and then puts the shotgun on his head. Bang! It was heard all over the place as the demon's body fell while disappearing into the shadows. In that, Issei deactivates his ghost form and then begins to walk. Chapter 16. Issei was walking calmly through the courtyard while still holding his sawed-off shotgun in his hands. Issei, how strange, I haven't seen more enemies, he thought as he walked. At that, Issei felt a familiar energy making him stand up and walk faster. At that moment, the chestnut tree stops in front of a door where it is, and I will open it to then enter. While aiming with his sawed-off shotgun, at that moment the Issei from nowhere receives a powerful blow that makes him crash against the wall and drop his sawed-off shotgun. At that, Issei tries to stand up quickly but receives a blow to the face again, followed by a paw to the abdomen, and finally a blow to the jaw, causing Issei to fall to the ground while he sees how a familiar person looks at Issei. "I'm sorry," said the female voice, and then put a paw in Issei's face. Elsewhere, Sak could be seen still transfixed in Ghost Raider in front of a very barren chestnut tree. "Sak, you really hit hard," he said as he stood up. "Damn," said the brown-haired man who had his katana in his right arm. "Sak, it's time to finish this," he said while he was starting to run towards the chestnut tree. With Issei, he was opening his eyes and realized that he was in a bed. Issei got up and then looked at the whole apartment. "Issei, shit, that hit really hurt," he said as he stood up. At that point, the brown-haired man dodges another blow from a woman. When the chestnut tree saw who hit it, he was surprised. "Issei, Maria," said the brown-haired boy in shock. "Maria, sorry Issei-san, but if I don't do this my mother will die," she said while opening the lock on her neck. In that, Maria's body began to shine, showing a much more mature form of herself, surprising Issei a lot. "Maria, I'm sorry Issei-san, but you won't get in the way," she said while her eyes began to shine. At that, Issei had to give like a doll while Maria hugged him, while some treacherous tears fell from her cheeks. "Issei, I'm sorry," was the only thing he said. That surprised Maria, but then she saw how Issei was covered in fire, scaring Maria. "Issei / You innocent," was the only thing he said while he gave her a powerful blow to the abdomen, making Maria fall unconscious. At that, Issei lowers his gaze and then uses his chains to open a portal. With Sak, this one was all wounded while his wounds were covered by blue fire, while next to him was a brown-haired man who had a katana on his right arm while he was cleaning his wounds. "Sak, hee, you are tough boy," he said while taking out a cigar and lighting it on fire with his finger while he was trying to smoke it. "Can't you keep your mouth shut for a while?" he replied with annoyance. "Sak, and well, you think you'll join the Avengers," said this one. The chestnut tree just gets up while he was trying to walk towards the exit. "I'll think about it," was the only thing he said as he left. "Sak Sai, you owe me a big one, fiery," said this one. With Issei, you could see Issei walking calmly while he entered a room where he saw Mio, who was crucified. At that, Issei starts to walk towards me, but at that he stops a blow to turn around to see an albino who was looking at the brown-haired girl with annoyance. "Zets, do you think you are strong because you have that power?" said this while releasing his power. "Issei / You are a demon, you are different from the others I killed. Why did you do this?" he said while his eyes began to shine golden, while his hands had transformed. Zets didn't respond to that. She started to hit Issei, but he just hit her in the face, making Zets fly away and crash into the wall. While he was about to spit out blood, at that Issei walks towards me but stops to listen to a male voice. "Seriously, this is the only thing you can do? I see you're useless," said a male voice. In a magic circle, an older man who had horns comes out and stares at Issei. This was Zalgia, the one who ruined my life by killing his abducted parents. In that, Issei only transforms where he takes out his chains and sets them on fire. "Zalgia, do you really think you can beat me?" she said while her eyes made a glow where all the fire that covered Issei had gone out where the body fell to the ground. That surprised me as well as Zets. In that, Zets approached Zalgia, who realized Zets. "Zalgia, really, you couldn't do this simple job? You are useless, she said while she launched a magic attack at the albino who hit her, making her fly where she crashed against a column. Then she fainted, and Zalgia started walking towards Issei. But just when she was about to grab him by the neck, "Mine, leave Issei!" I shouted as I began to release a huge amount of power, making Zalgia smile. Before Zalgia does anything, he feels that someone has grabbed his foot. In that, Zalgia saw how Issei transformed again, and then he received a powerful blow to the face, breaking his nose. In that, Issei uses his chains and then hears an explosion. With Yuki, she was sitting on the motorcycle seat and felt Issei's energy. Yuki, there it is, he said while he started running at a huge speed. Back with Issei. Issei, who had recovered from the attack while his body released its flames again. In that they see how Zalgia had stood up while her nose did not stop bleeding, implying that her nose was broken. Zalgia, damn, he exclaimed furiously as he released his power on that. Mio falls to the ground where he sees Yuki with her sword that she was keeping at her waist while she helped Mio to stand up. Zalgia looked at all this annoyed. But in that you can hear a step where an albino woman comes out carrying a body unconsciously. This was the mother of Maria, the queen of Delos Tsukubo. He steps sideways from Issei to stand in front of the girls. Maria's mother then leaves her daughter on the ground and then takes sets. In that, everyone sees how a portal will open where the girls enter without putting up any resistance. Zalgia was looking at this in disbelief for what just happened. They ignored him, and then he sees the Avenger. But before he could make a move, Issei had pointed at him with his finger. Issei / Guilty was the only thing he said. In that, Issei entangles Zalgia with his chains and then brings them to where he is and gives him a powerful right hook to the face to send him backwards. At that, Issei takes out his sawed-off shotgun where he is about to shoot Zalgia, who is covered with a magic circle, but the bullets managed to pass through, hitting his leg, making him groan in pain. With the girls, she had left the magic circle where they found a beautiful brunette woman who was sitting cross-legged. All the girls were surprised. Mio Hasegawa-sensei, she said, surprised. Chisato, hi girls, the most normal greeting in the world. With Issei. Issei could be seen walking calmly towards Zalgia, who was on his knees in front of an Issei who looked at him as if he were a stone in his shoes. At that point, Zalgia takes the opportunity to give Issei a powerful blow to his stomach, causing him to fall back and fall to his knees. But what Zalgia didn't expect was that several chains surrounded Zalgia's neck, causing him to be surprised. Zalgia was the only thing he said as he stood outside his castle and heard the noise of a motorcycle, making Issei look at him. At that, the motorcycle accelerated, causing Zalgia to be trapped in its grip as he was dragged by the motorcycle. At that point, the motorcycle turns around and then goes back into the building, while Zalgia tries to get out of the chains, but it is impossible. In that, Zalgia sees how Issei walks towards the motorcycle, but when Issei gets on the motorcycle, Issei looks at Zalgia, who looked at Issei with fear. Issei / Ha 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 was Issei's laughter while he was beginning to accelerate the motorcycle. In that, Zalgia was dragged all over his castle mercilessly by Issei. In that, while he was being dragged, several minutes later, Zalgia could be seen hanging on chains, but what was most noticeable was that all her bones were out of place. Even some of his bones were out of his skin as he splattered a huge amount of blood. While his eyes were burned out, you could see that he was missing one of his horns, as well as now the skin was hanging off his back where his head was. You could notice Zalgia's brain hanging by a thread. At that, Issei detransforms to look at Zalgia, who is still dying. Issei / It's over, Zalgia, it's time for you to return to hell, was the only thing he said while he opened a portal where Issei threw Zalgia into it. Several days of then, Issei could be seen walking calmly throughout the city of Tokyo, while Chisato was next to him. Whoever had a smile on his face. Chisato, that your headquarters, Issei, are you somewhat thoughtful today, asked Issei. It's not a joke at all, he answered. Well, where do we have to go now, said this curious guy. Chisato, let's go to my apartment, was the only thing he said. Chapter 17. Ah! It was the scream of several people who were running while behind them you could see a guy wearing armor, and he had 2 pairs of black wings while behind him everything was destroyed. Pathetic Avenger, said the guy while looking at a pile of corpses and then seeing how a burning guy comes out of the piles of corpses. Roa rare! The subject roared as he began to climb down from the piles of corpses, then grabbed some chains that were on the ground and set them on fire. Sadkiel, your blood is stained with the blood of innocent, you're guilty. The clear words of the subject with his demonic voice said while he turned his fists with the chains to then look at Sadkiel, who simply points his sword at him. If you want my soul, come for it, he said to him as he began to fly towards the sky where the man with his chains threw him towards the sky where the chains began to tangle his leg, stopping Sadkiel's flight. At that point, the subject forcefully throws the chains to the ground, causing Sadkiel to end up pinned to the ground. While he is there, he takes out a sawed-off shotgun and then points it at Sadkiel. At that, Sadkiel comes out of the mine crater and then throws himself at the subject, who begins to shoot several shots at him where the angel with his swords blocks the shots easily and then he gets to be in front of the subject where he is and tries to cut him with his sword, but the subject quickly runs away just in time where Tzadkiel sticks the sword in the ground, causing the whole place to shake. "Tisk," the angel complained as he looked straight at the subject. "Well, how long do you think you can stay in that form?" he said as he began to release sacred power. The Avenger didn't respond. He quickly unwrapped the chains where he is. He stares at the angel, who simply smiles and then launches himself at enormous speed. Appearing right in front of where he is, he gives him a powerful blow. Uppercut to the jaw, but the Avenger reacts quickly by giving an incredible chain blow to the angel's face, causing him to retreat. While the Avenger quickly begins to run towards him to give him a right hook to the face, followed by an uppercut to the jaw, causing Tzadkiel to retreat. But then the angel reacts in time. Wherever he is, he dodges another blow. Wherever he is, he tries to stab the Avenger with his weapon, but a chain manages to catch the sword, avoiding it. Thus, the stab, wherever he is, he gives the Avenger a powerful headbutt. Crack! The blow had been heard. While the Avenger holds his head, while Tzadkiel could be seen that blood was coming out of his forehead. At that, Tzadkiel, without thinking twice, rushes at the Avenger wherever he is and lands a right hook in the stomach, followed by a kick, causing the Avenger to fly away. While he is there, he begins to crash into several buildings and then ends up being nailed against a post. At that, the fire that covers the Avenger goes out, where Tzadkiel appears with the sword in his hands and points it at the Avenger. "Damn you, you're a true Avenger, but you still have a long way to go." But he couldn't continue speaking because several chains had entangled his arms, legs and neck. "What?" was the only thing he could say before looking straight ahead. He ha ho ha ho ha ho ha ho ha ho ha ho ha ha. The Avenger laughed as he left the light post, revealing a huge gap that was closing. "You damn one!" he roared, annoyed as the Avenger was healing himself, and then watched as he took the chains. "Do me a small favor," said a black-haired man who looked seriously at the angel. "Go back to where you came from," he told him. While he transformed again, he then raised the angel to the top with his chains, and then saw how a portal opened. He threw him into the portal and then closed it. At that point, the subject demorphs and then ends up falling to the ground while he begins to breathe heavily. "Ah," said the guy, and then you can hear several steps where he is. He looks to the side where he sees a man with a horse. "It seems Tzadkiel is free, right?" he said, looking at the mess in the place. "How was it possible for him to get out of hell when I was there? I had locked him up with Lucifer," he said. "Who knows, Johnny, you have to go to Tokyo and tell the boy that there's no more time," he said as he began to leave and then ended up disappearing from the place. "Sigh, I think you're right," he said as he stood up and made a splash where a motorcycle ended up appearing where he got on. "Let's see how much you've improved, Issei," was what he said as he began to leave the place. Tokyo. Issei and Chisato could be seen both traveling in the brunette's car, who was riding with a smile on her face. "Sigh, hey Chisato," said Issei while looking at the brunette. "Yes, Issei-kun?" she answered, while stopping the car and starting to get out of there. Being followed by Issei, wherever he is, he sees an incredible hotel. "Wow," he said, surprised, as the chestnut passed by him. "Come inside with me," she said as she started walking, followed by Issei, who had forgotten what he had to do. Already inside Chisato's apartment, they both enjoyed a quiet dinner. While Issei told him a thing or two, just as Chisato also told him a little about his past. At that, Chisato begins to collect the dinner dishes where he begins to wash the dishes. "Chisato, don't you want me to wash? You've already done a lot for me by inviting me to dinner?" the brunette couldn't help but ask. While the brunette just smiles. "Don't worry, Issei-kun," she replied. While the brown-haired boy just looks at her and then sighs. "Issei-kun, can I ask you a favor?" she asked while the brown-haired boy just looks at her. Of course, the response. "Can you give me a hug?" she said. While Issei looks at her for a few seconds and then stands up. "Of course, why not?" he replied as he began to walk and stand behind her while hugging her from behind. "I'm warm," said the brunette while enjoying the brunette's hug, who simply said nothing more than closing his eyes. At that, the brunette begins to move her hips where the brunette begins to hug the brunette. "See, Chisato?" said the brunette somewhat nervously, looking at the brunette who. "Hey Issei," she said. "Tell me," the chestnut replied. "Tell me what you thought of my food," she asked him while looking at the brown-haired boy. Well, if you ask me like that, you might get mad, said the brown-haired boy while the brown-haired girl looked at him a little confused. Chisato, your food, even though it's the first time I've tried it, made me feel nostalgic, said the brown-haired boy while he looked at Chisato, and then he put on a smile. Well, although I don't remember what my mother's food was like, said the brown-haired boy while Chisato begins to touch his ring. I see, she said as the brunette pulled away from the hug a little. I'm bothering you for that, although the truth is your food was delicious, said the chestnut. Issei, that's enough for today, she said as she turned off the water tap. Could you hold me tight? She said, but what she didn't expect was the following. The chestnut tree had turned around and began to hug the chestnut tree more tightly. We are just teacher and student, she said as she hugged the chestnut. If you want me to just stop, I'll stop, Issei said with a smile. That's not fair, Chisato said, as he leaned closer into Issei's embrace. You could see a guy walking through the dark streets of the city where he entered a kind of cemetery. Instead of tears, a soft song, and instead of this pain, I need your color. At that, the feeling begins to walk around the entire place where he is and stops at a specific place where there was a tombstone. I don't think I could change my world so easily, but I will still quietly break through this darkness, and I know I will always try to move forward. How long has it been? The guy said as he knelt down and looked at the tombstone. Perhaps you will be very close to me. My dream is only that you can love me in the way of love that I imagined. Always, always, always like this. I will look for her. I don't want to say it again. I'm going to give up. At that point, the subject begins to clean the tombstone with his hands and then sees the name that was written on it. If you saw what I've become today, I think you'd be proud, said the guy. The best thing I can do is just count on what is in me. There are things that make me fall, and it seems that I will give in. But even so, I made my decision. Yes, I want to fight for you. In that, he puts his fingers where he begins to learn about fire, but in blue. You know, with this thing I can do good, do amazing things, and even heal wounds, the guy says, moving his hand from side to side. I'm going to give up. The best I can do is just count on what's in me. There are things that make me fall, and it seems like I'll give in. But even so, I made my decision. Yes, I want to fight for you. You said this curse would be a greater good when I was a kid, he said. He put on a slight smile. You always told me I'd be a superhero who would save everyone from evil, he said. I could make it so that this time, nothing exists anymore that can stop me. Even so, love what I want to find. Beyond the pain, I need your warmth. Maybe you could be very close to me. My dream is just that you can love me, the way of love that I imagined. Always, always, with you I will search for it. La 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 la, la 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 la. But I still never believed you, he said as he began to shed tears. But now, he said as he looked at the sky. The world turns and turns, and time changes again. Before the end comes, I want to obtain your love and be happy with you. Perhaps you will be able to be very close to me. My dream is only that you can love me in the form of love that I imagined. Always, always with you I will search for her. I promise I'll fix that mistake, he said as he stood up. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Instead of tears, a soft song, and instead of this pain, I need your warmth. And show all those who spoke ill of me that I will be a hero, he said, while looking at the stars. I promise you, Mother, no one will be able to stop me. Seriously, is this necessary? Asked Issei, who was sitting alone with a towel covering his private parts. Don't worry. While the clothes are being washed, take advantage and take a bath, replied Chisato, who was only wearing a towel covering most of his body. Issei just sighed and then began to relax, but then Chisato hugged him on the back, making Issei feel an electric current throughout his body. Hey Chisato, what are you doing? Issei asked, while the brunette starts putting soap on the and start washing the chestnut's back. Calm down, Issei, Chisato said with difficulty while trying not to moan. Just leave this to me, Ami, yes? She said, while Issei just looked at her and then nodded, knowing that there was no turning back. At that, Chisato begins to breathe a little more agitated. At that, she suddenly kisses Issei's surprising chestnut, who reciprocates quickly. The kiss lasted a few minutes, then they both separated, leaving a trail of saliva where Chisato just smiled. Sorry, that's why I couldn't resist, she said, while Issei stared at her. Lemon skipped. A brown-haired man could be seen walking down some hallways where he stops right in front of a red-haired man. And how do you plan to make them work together? said the redhead as they both entered a room. Already inside the room there were several figures inside, where a black thing with a spider sign on its chest had come down from the ceiling and had enormous fangs in its mouth and a long tongue, while approaching a man with light brown hair. The other had golden armor with red highlights next to a spider sign, also along with some black parts. And in Alaves there was a small group of men with 2 girls. Avengers, he said, looking at everyone. United, said Chestnut, looking at everyone. Arc 2 previews, Khaos/Return. Issei could be seen sitting on his motorcycle looking at the city at night. Issei. Sigh, you finally arrived, said Issei while a horse appeared behind Issei where a man with a hat was coming. Crankcase, said Issei to Crankcase. Carter, I see it's time. Don't you believe it, said Carter while he transformed into the spirit of revenge. Issei just smiles. Issei, hell, let's roll, said Issei as he became the spirit of revenge along with the modification of his motorcycle. Sack can be seen facing some kind of creature with large horns while his team was behind him. Sack, well going, he said while taking out his gun and started walking towards the factory. You can see Kokobeel about to throw a huge spear towards where the Gremmy group was, all fallen on their knees like their brothers. But then the barrier collapses out of nowhere, and everyone starts to hear the noise of a motorcycle. When everyone looks back, suddenly something has jumped out of nowhere, and has passed over them, and then suddenly stops. At that, they were all surprised, since what they were seeing was a subject who was completely emaciated. His body was covered by flames. Sack could be seen walking through the streets of Tokyo where he suddenly stops and turns around. It's been a while, don't you think so? Said a male voice where the brown-haired man turned around. Sack, Mephisto, he said with an ear, seeing the person he hates the most in this world. In some ruins you could see a figure coming out of the cloud of dust. Then you could see a man completely covered in fire, leaving only his skull. While behind him there was a motorcycle. While in front of him there was one very similar, but this one had blue fire while the chains were in his hands. At that point, both individuals stare at each other for a few moments, before launching themselves at each other. You could see how 2 motorcycles were destroying everything in their path while leaving a path of fire of blue and orange. At that the blue Avenger throws the chain at him, but it is easily stopped by the other Avenger where both begin to forge. Roar! It was the roar of both. You can see Issei sitting on a bench and then a person sits next to him. How have you been, Issei-kun? Asked the man while the brown-haired man just looks at the sea. Issei, tell me, what do you want now, Mephisto? Asked the brown-haired man seriously. Mephisto, well, Sack was looking in front of him at a light-skinned man who was on a motorcycle. So you're the other one, huh? Said the calm man. Sack, tell me, who are you? He asked seriously. Or if you'll excuse my manners, I'm Johnny Blaze, he introduced himself. Arc LL, Chapter 1. Where am I? That was what a brown-haired boy with hazel eyes was wondering as he walked through a beautiful valley. As the brown-haired boy walked through the halls, he stopped suddenly to see a thin, white-haired man who had white wings that were all stained with blood, while he was hugging a dark brown-haired boy. When the chestnut starts walking towards them, the whole place turns black. Then he appears on a battlefield where he sees a blonde man with a sword banishing a black-haired man with vampire wings facing down. Lucifer. It escaped from his mouth as he watched that guy fall into the void. Suddenly the place turns black again, where now the brown-haired man was seen in front of an albino man who only makes him look good and then points his finger at him. It's your turn to protect them, was what he said, and then he began to disappear from the place while all his feathers began to fall and the place turned black again. At that moment a chestnut tree gets up from his bed agitated while he takes his hands to his chest. What was that dream? He asked himself as he began to look at his hands and then stood up and walked towards the bathroom. Already in the bathroom, he turned on the tap where he washed his face and then looked at himself in the mirror and was surprised. And this, he said while touching the tips of his hair that were silver-colored. What happened to me? He said to himself while looking at his hair. Knock knock. There was a knock on the bathroom door. Issei, are you okay? A female voice on the other side of the door became present. Issei, if I'm okay, I'll leave now, replied the brown-haired man who arranged his hair. How am I going to explain this? He said to himself. In the living room there was a group of girls. One was a redhead, the other was an albino, one had light blue hair and one had purple hair, and the last one had brown skin and yellow eyes, just like a white horse. Maria? Well, We are all ready to give Issei-san a surprise, said Maria with a somewhat wicked smile. In that all aware while hearing some footsteps from the stairs where all of them see Issei who had come down the stairs with a black jacket. Issei, oh good morning girls, greeted the brown-haired girl. While the girls were looking at him, do I have something strange? He asked himself while they all pointed their fingers at the brown-haired girl's hair, who touched it and started laughing nervously. Well, it will be a long explanation, he said nervously. Issei could be seen going shopping with Setz, who was wearing a black jacket along with a white t-shirt, some black jeans and boots. Both Ivans walked calmly along the street where Setz asked him something. Setz, Issei-sama could ask you a question? She said while the brown-haired man only nodded. Why did you decide to sign that contract? She asked while Issei just stops and starts looking at the sky. Issei, the truth was revenge, Setz, he answered without complaint. As they walked again, Setz, revenge? She said to herself. Against whom? She asked again while Issei just sighs. Issei, sigh, let's just leave it Hasai Setz. I don't want to remember the past now, replied Issei while looking at the upset albino where she nods and they go back like that. Upon arriving at the store they began to buy the necessary things where the brown-haired man was walking through the aisles where he sees a reflection, and sees Mephisto behind him where he quickly turns around and sees that there is no one there. Issei, how strange, he said to himself and then continued on his way to Setz. In an alley you could see several guys with guns while behind them there was a man with short black hair. Well, is everything ready now? The man asked the rest where everyone with a hi. But before they make another move several chains came out from the ground where they were all caught. Boss, what the hell? Said the guy who was trying to get out of the grip. PLAF. At that they quickly turn and see a man with dark skin. A lock of his hair was blonde, black eyes and he was wearing a suit. Go on. But look what I found here, said the guy who started walking towards them. Wherever he starts to transform into the spirit of revenge. That scared people. But before they could do anything, he pulled the chains down to the ground where his henchmen ended up turning into creeps, leaving the subject terrified while he begins to approach slowly. But before he makes a movement, he suddenly turns his head to see a person on a motorcycle. We need to talk, it's urgent, the man on the motorcycle told him. While the Avenger walks towards the man and then hears several cries for help. Sak was walking down some hallways and then he stopped suddenly and turned quickly back and pulled out a gun. Sak, he said while aiming everywhere, but quickly he dodges a blow from a grotesque dress. Damn, he said while he began to shoot several bullets, but behind Sak, but quickly he takes out a sawed-off shotgun and shoots him in the head, instantly blowing him up. But another demon appeared behind him, but before attacking him the demon begins to split into several parts. Next time look behind him, said a brown-haired man while he unsheathed his sword. Sak, sigh, well let's continue, said the brown-haired man. Penemu and Vile could be seen sitting on a kind of Kratos. Vile, Penemu look at this, called the man who had a scroll where the woman begins to walk towards the scroll where the shot is and begins to read it. Penemu, this says something but I can barely understand it, she said seriously. This looks like the letters of the scribe of God, she said while looking at the rest of the parchment. Vile, you talk about Penemu. That's right, I'm talking about Metatron, she said and then saw a frame where the shot is where she sees a man with white hair and light blue eyes. He had two wings spread out, while he had a white sphere. Vile, wow, it seems that bastard hid a lot of things, he said while touching his shoulder where there was a scar. Penemu, and you can say it, but after God died he disappeared from the place taking with him everything that had to do with God, she said while she found another scroll, but this one was different. This one had a skull in the center while this one was on fire. Vile, this can't be true or can it? He asked with a raised eyebrow, while Penemu also nods. Arc LL, Chapter 2. Another day had started relatively normal for Issei, who was currently at the academy, looking out the window thinking about everything he had discovered thanks to Azazel so far. Damn, I don't have to think that now, thought the brown-haired man as he looked at the school blackboard, but without realizing it he was being seen by Mine and Yuki who weren't taking their eyes off the brown-haired man. Time passed relatively normally. Very boring for Issei who had not paid attention in the entire Veto class to the dream he had. Right now the brown-haired man was sitting in the courtyard drinking a can of soda, while looking at his fists, and then closing them and closing his eyes. Sighing, he settles back down on the grass as he closes his eyes. Issei, are you okay? A female voice had said to the brown-haired man who just opens his eyes and sees mine standing there. Mine? Said Issei. Yes, what's wrong? Asked Issei, looking at her. Mio sits next to Issei, while looking at him for a few seconds. Are you acting very strange lately, after you told us your dreams? My God. Sighing. Don't worry, my friend. I'm just thinking more or less how to solve this, Issei said calmly while lying on the floor. Mio just limited himself to observing him, and then just stayed with him and enjoyed his company. Somewhere in the world you could see Johnny riding his motorcycle at a huge speed, while behind him a huge being with huge wings was chasing him. Accelerating his motorcycle, Johnny made a skid on the ground and then took out his shotgun and pointed it at the huge being that was following him. When the dress opened its mouth to eat Johnny, he pulled the trigger, firing a powerful shot straight at the creature's face, which flew backwards. Johnny got off the motorcycle and began to walk calmly towards the creature. Okay, now, tell me who sent you, Johnny ordered as he crushed its leg, causing the creature to grunt in pain. Our rot, said the creature in pain. Bad answer, Pete. Johnny's body had been covered in fire. While pointing his shotgun at the creature, go back to hell, said Johnny while pulling the trigger, and a huge shot had sounded throughout the place. Then Johnny returned to how he was before. He quickly put away his shotgun and ran to his motorcycle, then turned it on and started riding it at full speed. If I don't hurry, Issei will be in a lot of trouble now, he thought as his body ignited again. Just as his motorcycle had radically changed, where now accelerating more fully, his motorcycle was leaving a huge line of fire behind. With Issei, it was already night in the city, and the brown-haired boy was walking in a very relaxed manner. While he was walking, he had not noticed that someone was following him. Continuing with his walk, Issei, he stops right in front of a street where he realizes that everything is empty. How strange, it's all empty, said Issei seriously as he started walking again. But just at that moment a truck out of nowhere had run over Issei, causing him to fly several meters. At that moment, the driver's door of the truck had opened and a person came out. His hair was short but thrown back, he had a beard and he was wearing a leather coat. It's not a big deal, he mentioned while stretching his muscles, and then started walking towards where Issei was. As he was approaching the brown-haired man, who was already on the ground all wounded, his bones were all broken. His left leg was turned over and blood was coming out of his head. While he had his eyes open, a small glow began to emerge from there. The man had gotten close enough to where Issei was, to grab him by the neck and lift him up to his face. Really, you are one of the last carriers of the Ghost Raider? You don't seem like much, he said while looking at Issei's body that wasn't moving at any time. Have you died already? His voice sounded mocking. Don't tell me you have. Really, not for nothing, you are just useless for carrying that power with you. Suddenly Issei's fingers had begun to move, being noticed by the subject. Oh, I see that someone is still standing, huh, he said amused. Issei's bones had begun to shift by themselves while the subject still had him by the neck. When the bones in his arms and legs had shifted enough, Issei closed his eyes. What's going on, he said while looking at the brunette's face. Issei muttered, Hey, are you still alive? Bringing his face closer to where Issei's face was. I want you to repeat what you're muttering, he said. But at that moment a smile had curved on Issei's lips. That's so funny. Damn it, he said, half annoyed. And then Issei just moved his head, still with his eyes closed, to where the guy's face was. I said that this bothered me. Issei's whole body had turned into flames and bones. Then he took the guy by the shoulder and gave him a powerful headbutt, causing the guy to release Issei, who fell to his knees on the ground while several of his bones settled. The subject was half stunned, to recover immediately and look towards where Issei was, and launch himself towards the skull that had not moved at any time, launching a kick directly to the face. His attack was repelled with Issei's hand preventing the block from reaching his face. Lighting his clothes, the subject quickly steps back, while he tried to put out the fire on his clothes, but Issei had stood up and began to walk towards the subject, where he threw a right punch to the subject's chest, causing him to be dragged a few meters back. Issei is still standing while his body is still on fire. He begins to walk. His steps were a little clumsy because his bones had not fully generated. Then the subject looks to where Issei is, and the first thing he realizes is that his body was not fully healed. Smiling amused, he turns his hands into enormous black claws. Running towards Issei, who stood still, waiting for him to approach, Issei had put his guard up. Quickly, dodging the first blow, Issei launched an uppercut towards the jaw, but the subject easily dodges it. Wherever he is, With his other claw he launched a direct blow towards Issei's ribs, where Issei reacts quickly and puts his arm as a shield and blocks the attack at a hard cost, since his wrist had been dislocated. Now with his other healthy arm, Issei launched a blow that connected with the subject's face, causing him to take a few steps back. "Damn, you are tough," the subject mentioned while his face began to disfigure. Enormous fangs had appeared while half of his face was being covered by several eyes. Little by little his face had radically changed into that of a spider. "Now we are even, what do you think?" he asked arrogantly. While he watched as Issei had adjusted his wrist, and began to move his arm and stretch his bones, Issei sets his sights and now he cracks his knuckles. "It's time for you to go back to hell," Issei mentioned as he ran towards the guy, who also started running towards Issei. In a few meters the subject had made a huge leap upwards and Issei had put his arm ready to hit the subject. But the subject was faster and launched a flying kick with both feet extended, hitting him right in Issei's face, causing him to retreat, where the subject with his claws quickly attacks Issei, who quickly spins on the ground where he gets up and launches another blow. But the subject watches as the attack was coming towards him in slow motion, where he just runs his face to the side and opening the palm of his hand he grabbed Issei's face and quickly embedded it into the ground, creating a mini crater in the place. But the subject did not stay there. He lifted him up where he threw him against the road, making him crash against the front of the truck. Seeing a post, the subject takes it and begins to walk towards Issei, who had rejoined. Where he throws another punch just when Issei turned around and hit him completely in the face, making Issei fly up to where the subject. With his claw he takes him and embeds him again against the ground, while Issei's transformation had disappeared and his head did not stop coming out blood as well as in his mouth. "What a disappointment. I thought you would be stronger, but I was wrong. You are just a disgrace for being the bearer of that power," he said while he stabs the pole right into Issei's chest, making him spit blood, where he then turns around and begins to walk away. "Just like I'll die, huh?" Issei thought to himself. "I can't move anymore. I can't feel my body and I've lost a lot of blood," Issei thought as he closed his eyes. At that point, in Issei's mind, several memories of Issei, mine, and the others begin to come to mind, as well as those of Chisato, Penemu, and Vile. "I don't have to get up," Issei thought as he managed to focus his gaze. "I promised I wasn't going to die now, not without doing my thing first." Issei tilted his head slightly upwards, his eyes began to glow intensely golden dash. "Remember," Issei thought as he remembered the bad things he had experienced throughout his childhood until the moment he discovered his ex-girlfriend Murayama having sex with his brother. His eyes shone a strong golden color. "I'll tear him apart, don't kill them." Issei leaned his body forward as he clenched his teeth tightly. "I don't have to worry now what's right and wrong now. You can't expect a happy ending in a horror story." Clenching his fists tightly as blood flowed out of them. "Yes. We live in a cruel world." Leaning his body forward, Issei gave a loud scream. Boom! An explosion had shaken the whole place where the subject had his steps. Then he turned his face back. "What?" he said. At that moment the whole ground had begun to crack, creating several lines all over the two, where the subject was surprised while he quickly stepped back. But at that moment several chains had come out from the ground and had pounced on the subject, who reacted quickly and began to dodge the attacks. What the buck? He couldn't finish speaking because some chains had been inherited on his legs. He couldn't move his body, but then he turned around and received a powerful right hook to the face, causing half of his face to fly with his body, where his gaze sings to him, and right there he sees Issei standing all covered in fire. "Ruaer!" It was the loud cry of Issei as his whole body released a huge explosion of fire, while, around Issei, a figure of some kind of bird had formed. Issei takes the chains from the ground, where he spins them all over his body and then throws them towards the man, who quickly dodges them. Where the chain comes out of the ground again and launches himself towards the subject, who again begins to dodge Issei's attacks, either slow nor lazy. He creates fireballs in his hands and he has thrown them at the man. Where he cannot dodge the attack that hits him directly, and then his body is surrounded by chains. Issei takes the chains and quickly pulls him to where he is, then puts an uppercut on his jaw, making the guy fly. But Issei quickly does a huge stomp towards the ground, where, from this, several chains came out and began to cover the guy's entire body. Issei, taking the chains, quickly throws him to the ground. "Aha!" the subject shouted as he fell to the ground and then created a crater. The chains that surrounded his body began to tighten his entire body, more and more as if he were a snake. Issei began to approach him with slow steps where he had stopped just a few steps from him. "Please have mercy," the subject read while Issei bowed his head a little and took a pull, and then it had been covered in fire where Issei puts his foot on his chest. "I have no mercy," and with that said Issei nailed the post into the subject's chest, causing him to die. Quickly turned to ashes, Issei took a few steps back and then fell to his knees as he returned to normal. He began to breathe heavily. His body was shaking. Then he heard footsteps as Ivan ran towards him. "Issei-sama." Issei managed to recognize the voice, while he saw 4 figures towards Ivan. "Girls," Issei said as he fainted, while in the distance, someone could be seen in the shadows looking directly at Issei, then just turning around and starting to walk away. "I want you to tell the other hidden ones that it's time," the man mentioned while behind him there was a man all wet who then nodded and disappeared in a puddle. Sighing, the man walked away from that place very calmly. Arc 2, Chapter 3. Issei was currently in the room they were staying in, busy subduing Mio. Mio was currently facing Issei, riding on his thighs in only her panties. Lemon skipped, caught in a pincer attack from the front and back. Mio could no longer control herself, and after climaxing again and again from her pincer attack, the master servant contract mark finally disappeared from her neck. After helping Mio cover her with a robe so she wouldn't catch a cold, Issei got out of bed and looked out the window, and Maria helped Mio into the adjoining bathroom to rinse off the sweat from her body. Amidst the sounds coming from the bathroom, she began to think about the battle she had with the Hidden One. Until now, I didn't know the reason for all this and its appearance. I had no idea what was happening, but I couldn't stop thinking about it either. I was very attentive to everything that would happen. I think I'm thinking about that a lot. Even if his fighting prowess couldn't be obtained, he would likely still be able to gain some advice from him. Historically known as the former Phantom Avenger, he should probably be able to give him some suggestions to help him break the current situation. Issei-san, would you like to join us here in the bath? We can help you wash your back, you know? Just as Issei was thinking that, a naked Maria opened the door and invited Mio, who was wrapped in the robe, with a red face, and begged her with tearful eyes. Please, Issei, come, said Mino with a blush. Okay, I understand. Issei nodded and walked towards them slowly. While being calm as usual, he also pondered on what he should do tomorrow. The next day, Issei was riding his motorcycle very calmly through the city when he stopped at a red light. Issei felt a strange gaze on him and then turned his face and right there saw Mephisto, then blinked and saw that he was no longer there. Looking everywhere, Issei found no one in the place. What the hell was that? Thinking that it was nothing more than a simple illusion, Issei just continued driving his motorcycle away from the place. In Grigori, Azazel can be seen in a laboratory. While he seemed to be making a metal gauntlet, taking a screwdriver, it began to approach little by little. Slowly. As I was about to put in the last screw, a magic circle formed on the spot. Azazel! And with that scream, Azazel jumped a little in fright, but without realizing it, he just touched a button with his screwdriver and boom! A small explosion was heard as Azazel fell to his knees and began to cry. I was so close, cried Azazel. Azazel, get up quickly! Penemu shouted, and you have to see this quickly. Azazel looked at Penemu, while wiping his tears, and then just stood up. Well, I hope it's important to come to my sacred place. Penemu passes Azazel some parchment, while Azazel raises his eyebrow in curiosity, and then just looks at Penemu, who nods. Azazel just sighs and begins to silently read everything. The more he read, Azazel's eyes began to open slowly, then he saw Penemu, who nodded and went back to reading the book. This has to be a joke, said Azazel, unable to believe it. Believe it, Azazel. That thing has a lot of information about the powers that Issei-kun carries. And it also tells the other things, says Penemu seriously. Saigosh, a small smile formed on Azazel's lips. This boy is definitely a show. In Tokyo, Tojo residence, Issei was currently sitting in a room reading a book quietly. While waiting for the girls to arrive, Kurumi had told Issei that she was going out to buy something, so he was able to relax a little. Issei wanted to continue reading, but he couldn't because he started to feel like his hands were burning. He just looked at his hands and saw that they were very red, as if something was squeezing them too hard to have that intense color that was increasing every second. But the brown-haired boy managed to hear the sound of a motorcycle outside his home. but he didn't have the slightest idea of how it could have turned on. He just put that book back away, but not before sealing it with several magic circles and then leaving his room and his home. When Issei left the house, he didn't see any motorcycle outside. However, he managed to hear the sound of the motorcycle's exhaust again. He was somewhat unsure, but with 2 magic circles formed in the palm of his hand, he headed toward the sound of the motorcycle. That noise ended up leading him to a slightly wide alley, but that didn't matter. What truly mattered was the motorcycle, which was undoubtedly Issei's motorcycle, which was on in the middle of the alley. The brown-haired boy was quite surprised by that, so he ended up undoing both magic circles to get closer to the motorcycle. However, when he was close to said vehicle, he felt a strong chill that ran down his spine. Issei, feeling that chill, didn't want to turn around. He didn't want to do it for anything in the world, but gathering a little bravery and courage, he did it. But when he turned around to see if someone was behind him, the brown-haired boy saw that in front of him was Mephistopheles. "Hello, Issei. It's been a long time since we've seen each other," he said with a small smile, looking at the brown-haired boy while his eyes shone the same orange tones similar to fire. In the city of Kuoh, you could see 2 brothers fighting with a group of fallen angels, and then killing them. But then they both felt a huge chill run down their backs, as if they had felt their own death. "Guys, were you okay?" asked a beautiful red-headed girl with a great body. "Eh? If we are fine, Bucho/Rias," both responded, while the ones known as Rias nodded, although both brothers still could not shake off that strange feeling they felt. Arc 2, Chapter 4. Issei was currently lying down reading what looked like a manga, while the other girls were doing their homework. Setsu was wearing a maid outfit while in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Yuki and Kurumi were doing their schoolwork and Nino was sitting on a chair, and 2 people were missing. Among them were Maria and Chisato. After a few months, Chisato had moved in with Issei, something strange for the brown-haired boy who didn't take it very seriously. But in the end, well, she knew Issei's story and so on. Like the other girls, they already knew that Chisato was a goddess. Therefore, just like mine and the other Issei, and she made the master and servant pact, where Chisato lost her virginity. Using a fetish was a bit strange since Chisato asked Issei to grape her, from back and front, wherever she was. Thanks to a potion from Maria, he managed to generate clones. That day Chisato touched hell and heaven lightly. But there was still something that bothered Issei, and that was what he talked to Mephisto about. "I had no intention of returning to Kuoh City. In fact, there are several high-caliber demons in Kuoh City, and the fact that they are subordinates of Mephisto's son was already a lot of trouble. But there was also another problem, and it was Kokobile. No doubt that old bastard and all those who followed him went directly to Kuoh to attack the demons who guarded that place. And if everything went perfectly, a new war would break out where the factions began a fight involving the human world, which Azazel did not want. Damn! There were so many problems now that Issei didn't even know what he should do at this point. "Issei, what's going on?" The one who spoke was none other than Yuki, who sat next to Issei, while everyone else simply watched. "It's nothing, I'm just thinking about something." "Why the question?" "You're just more distracted than usual." I comment now with my arms crossed. "Are you mine too?" "We are worried about you, Issei-sama. Whatever problem you have, you know you can count on us," spoke Setsu, who also heard everything. "Issei, only after all, we are a family now," Kurumi mentioned. The brown-haired man, for his part, puts on a slight smile. It was true that he was no longer alone in this fight. Sighing, thanks girls, looking out the window at the dark sky. "Issei-san, still marry with me and the rest of the girls?" Slightly surprised, all the girls hugged him to his surprise. "Let us help you with your problems too." In the end, the brown-haired boy accepted the hug and decided to give in, and then look out the window for a while. In the great darkness of the night, more specifically in a forest, there was someone wearing a hood that covered his face. A great breeze blew and a person with 2 enormous black wings descended from the skies while the hooded figure turned slightly. "You're a little late, don't you think? You're certainly looking for some strange places to hold this meeting." It was best to keep the factions at bay after all. That idiot Kokobile. He'll attack the heirs in their own city. Smiling at the winged guy. No doubt about that. But leaving aside Kokobile's idiotic plan, you know about them. "Are you talking about the hidden ones?" the mysterious man said, receiving a nod from him. "One is already dead, killed by the Avenger." while the others disappeared again. The winged man closed his eyes slightly and grimaced. I've been looking for them for years, and I found out the key to hell has been opened. Surely if Lucifer finds out about this, he'd go crazy. Do you know who the new Avenger is? The hooded man denied, drawing a sigh from the subject. But I know who it is that brought the hidden ones out of their places. Go on, said the winged man as the hooded man nodded to continue his story. It was Blackheart who gathered the hidden ones. Apparently he's very interested in throwing the world into chaos. The winged man nodded as his eyes glowed a deep gold. Okay, our meeting will have to end here. I'll get back to you later. Same here, old friend, same here. Disappearing into the skies, the winged figure left everything behind while the hooded figure walked away. Little by little, his body began to crumble and then collapse completely into ash. Issei was already ready to leave. His motorcycle was off, and he looked at his house in the distance once more and then started it up. I'm sorry girls, but I have to do this alone. Pressing the accelerator, Issei headed for Kuoh City. His body slowly began to burn. His skin began to fall off his face, revealing his burning skull. As he accelerated his motorcycle at full speed, he began to create a large line of fire, destroying much of the street, without even realizing that someone from afar was closely following him through the skies. For about half an hour, Issei was in the middle of the highway, and feeling like he was being followed, he looked around until, stopping his motorcycle, he quickly looked at the sky and, without expecting, someone out of nowhere attacked him. Receiving the attack from behind, Issei flew and then ended up crashing into the concrete of the road. Turning slightly while nodding, she saw a man. He was about 1 hour 89 minutes tall, had short black hair, blood-red eyes, and was apparently around 24 to 28 years old. It's incredible. It's the first time in centuries that someone has been able to resist my attack. Who the hell are you? The man looked at him for a few moments while a small smile formed on his face and, disappearing from the brunette's sight, he recovered. He was hit in the abdomen, causing him to spit out and then fly further away from his motorcycle. The mysterious man walked calmly toward the brunette, who was recovering from the blow, steam rising from his body. Watching, slightly interested in what was happening, he took his steps and waited. The chestnut's body was covered in fire. So this is the Avenger's great transformation. It's certainly pathetic how the other gods received him. But I hope you can keep up with me, Avenger. Issei didn't respond as he crouched down and grabbed some fire-covered dirt. He threw it at the man who received the attack. Is that? Before finishing speaking under his gaze, totally shocked to see chains surrounding his leg, he looked in front of him at Issei, who had the chain in his hands. Ha 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 ha. And the only thing that was heard there was the great demonic laughter of that avenging ghost.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.